Payroll. All right, welcome Nottingham to the Board of Selectmen's March 20th budget review. This is the workshop. This is not a regular meeting. This meeting here is for us to go over our budget due to the fact that we are now running on our default budget after the town election voted against the proposed budget. And we'll see where it goes, but we're gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please everybody stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for you guys attending.
You're welcome.
Since I've never attended a meeting where we actually are talking about a default budget, besides, we're going to start with Ellen. Where do we go?
Okay, so what I have presented you is a worksheet that is essentially the same worksheet that we used during the budget process. We've just updated it. So you'll see 4 very important columns. The first one is 2023 actual. Those are the final unaudited expenditures for 2023 based on the approved budget. The next is the failed proposed budget that we had put out to the voters for 2024. That's grayed out just so we don't get confused. And then we have the 2024 default budget, which is what we presented on the MSDTB form. So that's essentially last year's approved budget, plus some contractual obligations, less some one-time expenditures. And the last column is the 2024 actual year-to-date expenditures through 3/15 of 24. And I thought that this was helpful because we've already operated almost a quarter of the year. So that will hopefully help as we determine what we're gonna be looking forward to. So, I guess in summary, what we're looking at is about a $290,000 difference between what we had proposed and what the default budget is. So it's a matter of figuring out where we go from here. I can honestly say that I did a quick calculation based on the present staff levels. Obviously, we have a lot of departments that are back up to full staffing and others that are not, but based on the present staff levels and the current salaries, I did calculate out what the amount is for that, and
Is that this separate sheet?
it is a separate sheet. So salaries, payroll taxes, retirement contribution, and health and dental benefits, which I just want to put out there for full disclosure, we are at a 15.6% increase for the health and dental for 2024. That was not added into the default budget. The personnel costs alone are total $133,, sorry. And we have $4,848,607 in a default budget. So I think as part of the budget preparation, we asked the department heads what they needed to operate their departments effectively. They had to make some reductions to help meet the 4% tax caps that's in place. The budget committee did what they could. I've looked over this multiple times. I've looked at last year's final expenditures, and we exhausted this default budget last year, not considering all the increases that we're subject to for 2024.
So we went over.
We did, yep, essentially, yes. Because if you look at the actual final figures right now, in that first column, the unaudited total that we expended was $4,715,218. that doesn't take into account the $143,000 that you encumbered for the road maintenance that will be expended this year as part of that contractual obligation.
The final 2023 budget was 4715.
It's actually more than that because we have $143,000 that we encumbered. So technically, that's earmarked in an encumbered line.
Okay.
So we have fully
And
expended.
we can't move that at all.
No, because the purpose of encumbering it was because
Yeah.
it was contracted for a
Yeah.
purpose that didn't get completed last year.
Yep. So our total right now is, what was the total? Of last year's?
Figure that out for you, Steve.
Last year's expenditures.
With that encumbrance,
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be in the final number?
No, because the $143,000 came.
It was a warrant article. Or no?
Yes.
No, it was
No.
an encumbered line.
It was an
That's right,
encumbered
it
line.
came out of the,
so if we factor that amount in there, we're actually looking at $4,858,218, so it's about $10,000 over the approved budget.
would it be a subtraction from 23?
The only thing that was subtracted from 23, it was the one-time purchase for the supervisors of the checklist laptop and the interest on the landfill note, because this is the final year, so we only have half a year interest payment.
I just meant we raised the funds last year, but we didn't spend it, so it would be a minus or a plus. It's already in that line item, right?
As far as the operating budget goes,
Yes.
The 134 already is part of,
Well, it hasn't, it's not shown in that expenditure line because we haven't actually spent it yet, it's just kind of set aside.
copy that. All right.
So if you
I
go
understand.
up to that line item, it was a $200,000 line item, and we have only expended, according to this, 56,677.
Copy, now I understand, yep.
so I think, at this point, but I think this is where we were talking about in November or December about, there was a warrant article for Hagan
Correct.
projects, right? That's where the $143,000 change.
No,
was
because
supposed to be encumbered from because it wasn't non-lapsing. Well, no, it was lapsed, but we signed the contracts to use that money so that way there wouldn't impact the budget.
Correct.
It spent the budget.
So that might, I'd have to go back to that meeting, because we had fully expended one of them, and then I thought we swapped it from the warrant article to the operating budget, or vice versa.
Right, so it should say $200,000 here.
It should, exactly, but because it's not an actual expenditure that we made, there should actually be another line that says encumbered, so that it earmarks that money.
But he's saying that 143 is of
Beyond that,
of the $600,000 we had to spend last year, he's saying we spent $200,000 on roads and we spent $450,000 on, of the warrant article, of which 143 remained of the warrant article. So that line item up there should read full 2 down to here. I think that's what he's,
yeah, so like it
Okay.
should say $200,000 and then, because we expended that, and then the $143,000 is being encumbered with the warrant.
So that's not the way that it is in the accounting system, so we're gonna have to change that.
But that's what we
I'm
had,
saying.
okay, if you go back to the meeting in November, December, before year end, we talked about how to make sure we can account that, so that we can use that. And then make sure that we're using the budget.
Right.
but I don't know if that'll matter, because we've already submitted
So
the
we-
default budget to the state, and then the line item that,
No, it doesn't matter. what the
Warrant
default-
article-
It doesn't matter what the default budget.
right, warrant article 2, right, it says you'll raise
But we still
4.8
have my
million.
points, we still have $143,000 this year with the contract. for
Yeah.
road improvement projects.
Right.
That wasn't part of the operating budget.
So again, in summary, if we factor that in there, in 2023, and audited, we would have expended 4,858,541 of a 4 million. I don't know what the official number was because the default budget's a little bit less than what was approved.
And just how does that work? Like on the Article number 2, which stated a number, it just says to the default budget, but then it gives a value number if through calculation we find that to be off even by $50,000.
That was the number that was presented to the public at the
And that
budget
was
hearing,
what's voted on, so
that
that's
is-
what it is.
That is what it is.
Okay, that's what I'm sure.
So that's the, right, that's the 4,848,608.
But that might be important too for next year, if we get the number correct, to make sure the default is correct moving forward.
Yeah, we definitely need to work on that for next year.
So basically, we need to chew through this, see with everything we can do where we come up to for a number. See where that number falls in line with the default, and then see what we need to do there, either further additional cuts or, depending on how sizable it is, what we need to do. And the two options available after that is either the
There's
RSA 40:13 for the potentially giving it to the taxpayers if they're like, this is the cuts we'd have to make, or reach out for the unassigned funds.
Yeah, I mean, the only
If
other
it's an
thing that we
emergency.
can do if we get to a certain point and we have something that comes up that we cannot fit within the budget is request an emergency expenditure through the Department of Revenue. And that's a little bit tricky because you either need 50% of the voters or a Superior Court approval to be able to do that.
Okay. So let's see where this bottom line falls out, I guess.
So I had preliminarily on Monday night, I identified 2 items that could be removed from the default budget because they were approved as separate warrant articles this year. That was the $5,000 for the Lake Coast program, which is found under the first batch, the executive. It would be line item, it's line 22 on your budget worksheet. So that's $5,000 that's already been approved by the voters by warrant article, so there's $5,000 there. And then all of the social services were moved onto a separate warrant article and approved by the voters. And that was 24,000. Change, but last year it was a little bit more because we had an organization that merged, so $25,000 plus the $5,000, there's $30,000. It's not much.
And it's not really all of line 333, right? Because the warrant article was for 24,750 or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we don't need this $25,000 at all, because we have what we need for 2024 approved through the,
But you might need $300. The warrant article was for like $24,700.
but we have that approved, that's what I'm saying. So this is $25,000 making
Correct.
up the bottom line that we can use elsewhere.
Yes, I'm saying something in here isn't gonna, 25, we're saying this total line item is gonna equal 25, of which 24,750, or whatever it was out of the warrant article, is actually covered, so we can't just zero these out. There's gonna be a $200 gap between this line and what the warrant article is.
I disagree.
Okay.
You're gonna zero the line. Because we don't need it at all, we don't need that money that's earmarked.
You don't need to double count it.
Right.
It's in the budget.
Even if there's
We
a
need the bottom
difference,
line.
even if there's a difference between what was raised from year to year.
Okay.
It comes in from the warrant article.
But the warrant article was for a specific dollar amount. Okay. Delete it off.
And it also listed out each organization, so we have to send it that way.
Correct. Do you have that one? I don't have that one in the last packet. I took it over.
What's that, Matt?
The voting,
For
that article, you had, what that said specifically. So-
Article 15?
Yeah,
So that's the, so it says $24,375. Then do you want the list of them, or?
no, but I'll look at that,
Yep, that's Article 15.
right.
And the other one was, Tuckaway Lake Association was
5,000.
Article 17 for 5,000.
So the way that the default budget works is we can't create new line items. Like if we had money, one of the examples that they use is that if we had a line item for revaluation, but we didn't actually appropriate money for that in the prior year budget, we can't add it in for this year. What we can do is take line items that did exist and move the appropriation amongst.
What about in the default ones here that shows 0? Is that just nothing was
Nothing
anticipated
was-
for them?
Exactly, so we can't,
You can't line it, this isn't the voters saying they want it to be 0, or
Right.
is it the same thing? So like you can't line, not that I'm saying we need to do that, but
if
can
there
you?
was not money raised for that specific line item, then we can't just throw a figure into it.
That only matters on the main ones that are on that other form, right?
Right.
Not these ones.
Right,
That's what I was, just making sure like this.
Yeah, so if it says 0 on
Election
these-
equipment, it's a 0 right now. We were proposing 1650. If we decided we needed that 1650, we can line item it.
Line
It's
item.
not like when it's been
Right.
zeroed out before. Okay.
correct.
Or when we change it to $1.
So for example, we had significant increases with the police department salaries. So we know that the police department budget is automatically upside down moving forward this year. So, you know, is there $200,000 in another budget that we can move the line item? Absolutely not. You'll see that most of the department budgets were over. There were only a few that, but that's what we have to figure out, is how to make up that obligation that's already been given. Sorry, Fun, I didn't mean to throw you.
No, I think it's actually a
It's a very
huge
good
part of
example.
this
It is.
default budget. My salary's up $222,000, and it's saying that we're over that. I mean, right alone, it's clearly just my department, so.
I mean, those increases were granted 3/4 of the way through the year, and the budget was over $90,000.
Right, but those should have been part of the default budget.
They cannot be though, because they were not contractual.
But if you read the way that's written, it says,
Which one are you looking at, John?
the default budget, any one of these that are highlighted here.
Paragraph 3, if the one starts with C, or,
So, it says accordingly, employee raises should not be included unless they are required by a legal binding and previously ratified contract obligating the municipality to fill particular positions or employ particular people at certain wages. So we are employing these people at particular certain wages as of when this default budget was made, and we did not include those wages appropriately in the default budget.
But they weren't under a contract.
But it's not a written contract, but it's still a contract between an employee and an employer, that they're going to be paid that amount of money. That's a contract.
Well, regardless. it
Right,
wasn't in the
right,
bylaw.
regardless,
So
we can't
just
do
got-
anything
But I
about
think we
that.
should get clear, I mean, I don't think,
No,
it-
next year,
All right, but it
Should-
goes on to say the term contracts means contracts previously approved in the amount so approved by the legislative body in either the operating budget authorized for the previous year or in a separate warrant article for previous year. So, were they, do we have a line item for merit pay increases? Yes, but it wasn't necessarily,
it wasn't the amount that we,
no. Accordingly, employee raises should not be included unless they are required by a legally binding and previously ratified contract obligating the municipality to fill particular positions or employ particular people at certain wages.
right, it doesn't matter this year, but we should make sure we clarify
Absolutely.
that going forward.
Absolutely. So the way that it was explained to me is unless you have a collective bargaining agreement in place or an employment contract, that is what sets that.
Well,
So there are certain positions in town that have employment agreements, but an increase given to a particular position doesn't necessarily constitute a binding contract.
right, so there would be no raises, there should be, it's still a contract, because it was agreed upon that their rate, their new rate would be X. So,
But I do see
this
that,
board agreed to that and presented the raises, and they were given the raises.
but
There
the,
would be no raise going forward for the upcoming year, because that's not, that was part of the default.
but accordingly, employee raises should not be included. That's what it was. It was a
his
raise.
point is saying
So-
that that would be the current year, you can't give raises, which is,
Right, exactly.
It's a no-brainer,
The current, the year that we're budgeting for now, you can't give raises.
Okay,
But the previous year should have included those raises, because that was a contract between an employee and an employer.
yeah, but if we gave raises to people after the default budget was signed,
Well, right,
You can't
after
do
the
that.
default,
Yeah.
right, but you gave a bunch of raises before the
right?
default budget
No,
was
but
signed.
my point is that if
Yeah.
we gave raises after that, those still couldn't be included.
So,
Right.
and that's
not
and
just
that's
my
the
department.
point that I'm trying to get at is, you know, those raises that were granted before that, those technically would have been enveloped under the merit increases that we had a line item set aside for. So that is essentially included in the default budget. It was the raises in excess of that. It was the, bringing them up to current pay scales. It was that reclassification that took place.
Right. but
That makes
could-
it different, and that was the most significant part of what happened in 2023 that's impacting this default budget.
Right, it doesn't matter for this
Right.
exercise, so,
but it will be a point of clarification for
yeah.
Moving forward.
this year's default budget, like
Well, wouldn't,
2020.
wouldn't this year be, default budget be this one again? Yeah, I mean, this is the budget that we're stuck with, unless voters
We're
say,
stuck with this.
right, so this could be our new norm for a long time.
It could be.
And that's why I think that you're making a good point, the way that I'm looking at it, and I'm speaking this because it's clearly my budget, that's making it kadoop-a-doop. What can we do? What are our options? Because I can't find a calculator to cut my budget to make up that number.
So we asked these department heads to cut, so I think we should probably jump into the department heads and see where their budgets are and if there's any room for anything within them. Is that why we have them here?
Well, we haven't, I mean, like, yes, that is why we're here. I mean,
Right.
they're essential to the function of the town, so we all need to be in this together. We're all working through what we've been handed, so, yes.
Yeah.
I've given my input. I'll start as a department head. I've given my input. The only other area that I've identified within the budgets that I oversee is I have $5,000 in my salary line alone. So I've come up with $35,000.
I'm not taking a stipend, so you can take that $1,000 out.
But there really isn't anything else, I mean, I don't see anything in there that we can cut.
Unless you start cutting positions, which I don't think is,
It's either going to be a service or a position
Right.
at this
Yeah.
point.
Right.
That's,
That's the hard truth.
unless you have a special election.
I mean, I think what we should do is look at the budget. I mean, we agreed upon the pay increases that we gave last year for a number of reasons that we can go over again, but we went over in great detail in a number of meetings last year. I mean, we have to bring people up to scale. So if we look at what those pay increases are, and then if we were gonna propose something to the public and have a public hearing about it or a public meeting, is we try to reduce other line items. And say, okay, so for instance, highway salt. We haven't had as many storms. We're at 37% of budget year-to-date right now for highway salt. Maybe we'll get one this weekend, but maybe that's an item we can cut $80,000 out of the budget. The roads, we got $143,000 that we're still gonna spend this year that's been contracted. It would be another $67,000 to bring that total to $200,000, but $43,000 has been covered last year. So again, we can still spend the 200, 143 is already been contracted, an additional 67K. So I mean, I think if we can look at cutting something, I think we just need to have a public meeting, in my opinion, in order to keep our staff members at where they are at, and then cut other items.
Some of the stuff,
Before we can have a public meeting to propose another budget, we need to actually create another budget and pass it through the budget committee.
Right.
So the first thing, I agree, the first thing is, taking the current salary rates, putting them out through, because we're gonna have to spend that anyway. The current salary rates, the benefits and all that stuff. Figure out where we are, and like Tim said, just, okay, where can we cut, move things from the remainder of the money that's there? Basically, what's that amount that's left, and do zero-based budgeting from that.
Absolutely, I agree.
yeah, see what we actually need for 24. And then see what the delta is.
So not that we wanna go through this process all over again, but
Right.
We are.
it's inevitable.
I mean, it's not too hard. We put the salaries in, and then when you go down, it'll say what the default budget is. We'll see what we were proposing, and you can already see where certain cuts were being made and why we either need to make them or line item adjust them. But if there was ones, like the newsletter went back up to $7,700. If we agreed 4,000 was a good number, there goes $3,300 or $3,700, and then you move down. We have some building maintenance in here, $4,000 a piece, but we have the 190,000, well, 40,000 for that area, but 150,000 for the building maintenance. The 3,000, 5,000 here for highway building maintenance and library building maintenance could be removed off of here, because it's covered by that other 150,000. There's another 5,000. We keep going down through here. We should be able to hopefully find what we need. We just gotta look at what the default put us at. What were we thinking? That'll tell us where we're at, and then the other couple of things that Tim was saying, we might not be that far off that quickly.
So I did a quick estimate during the day that, and this is completely unconventional because of the way things are, and so I assumed that based on what we currently spent this year and said that was 2.5 months, I just summed everything up, and we were at $5,329,208 annualized, which is actually over the proposed budget that failed. So I just wanted to see kind of a big wag.
Can I ask a question for clarification? Just so
Sure.
I understand, because I don't know if I really do. So if we go and we already know that we overspent that budget from last year, and we go and we try to cut all of our budgets again, what does that do when we go to default again next year? Why would we do that? No, I'm being serious. Is that logical? How are we gonna run the town if we literally are over and then we try to pick at again? We'll never get that back. If this is our new norm, we can't say yay or nay whether we'll ever get another budget passed. why would we go through, I mean, I don't need to speak for everybody. If you guys feel differently, because maybe I'm not understanding it, but we'll never see that again. So what I will say, because I can go first if you want me to, is that I don't recommend cutting any of my budget because I have nothing to cut. And I can speak to why if you need me to. I'm mission critical, we're 24/7. We can't not drive, we can't not get equipment, I have to have bullets, things have to happen. I'm already over because of my salaries, I don't know where, I went over this for like so many hours during the budget season, so many hours now, I don't know how we would do it. My thoughts are that we would not want to already cut an already cut budget, knowing that we'll never get that back. Am I wrong?
No,
You are not wrong.
Okay,
I don't
Wanted to
think we're
say-
looking to jump on salaries. I think what Tim's looking at is stuff that is not
Oh,
salary
and-
based. But if we were to cut salt by a ton and then next winter was
I
heavy,
think that's very
And we
dangerous.
still have up until December of next year.
Right. But we're still, we're only 37% to,
Right.
right, so how much salt would you go through in November, December? You don't know.
I can't
Obviously, we don't
predict
know.
what's gonna happen this,
But I
on
have
the weekend,
I
never
have a
mind
feeling
next
if you look
fall.
at, if you look at historically though, I think you spent the majority of your salt budget January through March and April. Historically.
But
I can't predict the weather. If I could, I wouldn't be sitting here. But I'm just saying.
Well, they don't get it right either, so. You could totally do it.
And I don't wanna cut it, I mean, I'm just,
Yeah,
the
I-
reality is, the select board presented this budget to the budget committee. Okay, we recommended the budget that we
Right.
presented to them, additional cuts were made.
Right.
So, I mean, I personally, I agree with you, I'm not speaking for the board, but.
No, I think it's a slippery slope. I say that wholeheartedly. I've been in this town for like 17 years, worked these budgets, seen what's happening, and then to give it again to the budget committee, I don't know if that's the best step. I would say it's not the best step. That would be my thought.
But that's the only, so the other choice is we go with the default budget and then try to cut other line items to.
No, so I guess what I'm saying is, could we just keep the default budget, obviously, because we have to, but then look for the money, so what I'm trying to say is, I think that we have to know what money is different and have a meeting and ask for that money. And say what's on the line. I don't know how else to say it. If you guys think you can cut some of your line items, then, and it's up to you, and I get it, and you can, of course you can, it's your budget, you can clearly do that, I work for the town, I get it, but,
So if we make no changes and propose the same budget, and it fails again, all we done was waste money on having a meeting.
okay, so let me ask you a question. Even if we make changes and that fails, what do we do?
Go to the default budget.
Then we still
No,
stick
where
to
do we
what
get the
have.
money? So then they're cuts, then you're cutting positions. Okay,
Right, we'll have to.
But I mean, that's
Or whatever.
up to the voters, we don't
Right.
have much of a choice
Right.
in that.
that doesn't sound good.
no.
I'm not
But
trying to be,
if,
like it,
that's
I don't
why
know
we
if
have to
there's-
go through this, and if they say they do not wanna spend the money, then the town says they don't wanna spend the money, and we have to,
But we have to get it done, we can't wait until May to do this, we gotta get it done sooner than later. So
Correct.
that, because we can't continue spending the level we are if we're back down to $300,000 lower than what we, $280,000.
my thoughts is that obviously that the taxpayers really don't understand what is happening here. That, I'm just saying that out loud. I mean, we're on record and we're saying it, and I'm very transparent, so.
I agree with her. I think they read stuff out there online, someone tells them something and they believe it, they never go to the source. They don't ask us. They believe their talking heads out there.
And I will note that I found a $1,700 error for the library telephone line. The amount is too low, even the proposed budget was too low. And these are phone lines that we're required to have.
But again, when you look at your total budget, I mean, the line items are the line items, I know that, but the total allocation.
I know, but it's, I mean, if you extrapolate that out, I've essentially, even if I look at the default budget, I have a $1,700 additional cost that I didn't think I had when I walked in the store. So,
Skip, this is a meeting between the departments. Is this something that's gonna benefit us, or is this just a general comment?
Just a general comment. I'm wondering what if you go to the RSA and do a next meeting, is it going to be SB two style?
Yes.
Absolutely.
If it is, it doesn't matter, because the public is not involved, whatever the numbers are, they don't get it, they don't understand.
It does have to follow the SB two procedure, so,
Okay. Deliberative
Okay.
session and then.
correct. It would just,
So we all know
it's
that's
only on the
involved.
operating budget article, so it would go through the same process, the selectmen present, the budget committee recommends, it goes on as one article for a ballot vote.
Is it a full, vote, or is it more like when the adequacy funds came in for the school and it was like a room vote with the placards?
No, it's SB two, vote.
So I'm just curious, that's how we accept the adequacy funds, so I didn't know how.
You probably have the deliberative session too?
And that costs money.
The election budget, I mean,
Right.
we're spending over what the default is by $25,000.
Right, well, yeah, because, last year there was town election only.
Well,
This year
no,
is-
No,
we're
'cause we have
budgeted
the
for
same-
town election only, but there was like 4 other elections.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, and so that's what we're working off of for default, we have 4, and then if we add this one in, we're talking additional, so we're already,
No.
So we're really at a,
You gotta dig deeper to even try to get out.
I have another stupid question. So if we do get it down, right, say we cut this all, whatever we decide, or you decide, or the budget committee, and we cut it all down and we're good to go, and obviously we go over the budget, where does that money come from?
we are not allowed to go over the budget.
Okay, that's good to know.
So,
That's
If it
my-
looks like we were to go over, that's what she mentioned, we can ask the state if we had to use from the unassigned fund, but it has to be like, it has to be of extreme
Can't be
need.
just.
we have to get 50% of the voting population to show up and approve it, or we have to petition Superior Court and get approval. And we have to justify the need for the emergency expenditure.
It's more for if like
Yeah, it's more for like if a disaster happened.
a bridge fails or.
Yeah,
And have
not to
we-
make payroll.
Have we reached out to other communities, I have for just PDs, of how they work a default budget? Like what has happened, cause I reached out to a local community that they've been on a default budget for 8 years. And I was told by that police chief, and I don't care I'm okay to say that he spends his budget, he uses his money, he goes over every year, and nothing has ever happened.
He probably does, but I mean, so you have to look at where the bottom line
So,
budget.
so I think we have twofold here, and I'm being transparent, is that not only now have we gone to default, but we've had a 4% tax cap for 3 years. And so there's that.
This is probably the most important meeting that we can have.
Yes.
Right now, and hopefully the public views it. Because this is what it is, this is a reality.
This is not good. What is the number we're looking for, Ellen, that we're over? Is it 280,000 or 300,000?
$289,000. $289,000.
but we found 30.
No,
35.
let's do it. And then
Now we're at 260.
I'll never get it back. I'll never get it back.
I just wanna, if I can talk about the elections, I'm willing to give up the laptop in there, we've worked without a laptop forever, so if we have to put on 2 more elections this year, if we have another special election, where's that money gonna come from?
Right.
And the presidential election's the big one. A lot of people. I'm not worried about postage and all of that, I think I can have that covered, but we need to be able to pay the people who put it on. We need to be able to come up with extra hours for Alana and I just to take care of absentee ballots and whatever. I'm afraid I'm gonna go over, I don't care if I get a raise, doesn't matter, it's been 5 years. Why get one, but the only thing I can add to fund is I might not only need 2,000 of my postage budget, even though I have 5,000 in there. I'll give her the 3. I'll give her however much.
Don't give me anything, Lori. You
No,
take
no,
your
no.
budget. No, that's my point.
I know,
Yeah.
it's, It seems outrageous.
I get your frustrations, Fawn, but
Did we lose the town budget by 26 votes? Is that true, inaccurate?
27.
So I understand what Skip's saying, but I wholeheartedly agree that we can garner more support if they have the correct information to get those votes. Because that's where we're at. I don't think we have anything to lose to do that.
You could do a mailer.
We have.
It has to be something.
Right, there
You
has
have
to be a
to do
way,
something.
but however we get the word out there, it is going to require us to expend more money.
I understand that.
Right,
I'll
but we
pay
do.
for
We
it.
have to
Like,
do
what are we, is
something.
it 1,000 million?
Cost
Like,
benefit.
But if we just cave to the default,
We
we're
can't.
stuck with it forever.
right,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
it's huge.
What's it cost us for a special election, Laurie? Any idea?
$6,000 or $7,000, right?
Well, we had
That's what we
we had
projected, but
two
it
of them
didn't.
last
We
Right,
had
it
two of
did-
them
yeah.
last year, and we did not
Right.
I mean, we barely overspent the election budget. So they were very good. I mean, they had a lot of good people step forward and split it up.
And we didn't have to pay for programming of ballot machines, it was paper ballots hand counted. That saved a lot of money right there.
Yeah, I mean, this wouldn't have that cost, 'cause it's only,
One paper, yeah, yes or no? But I mean, if, yeah,
I mean, no matter what, we still have to put together a new budget. That's just,
Could we somehow increase revenue?
that's.
It doesn't, that's, you know, it's expenditures, so you can have more revenue, that's
Doesn't matter.
coming in, no, yeah,
Yeah,
it's what we're spending.
you can't spend it. You can have it, but you can't
Yeah.
spend it.
I'm just-
Double, it doesn't matter.
I'm thinking of, you know, we could charge for the dump stickers or,
It's, Lori, I love your thought process, and John really loves it.
I know you know.
that was kind of hallelujah over there.
Yes, somebody finally!
Yeah. You guys can talk about that offline,
There's
but,
a lost leader right there, you know, I mean, if we could cover something so we don't lose money on a department because we have to do it. I mean,
but you're still spending it, so you could have the revenue offset to help with the taxes, but you still have to, you have to list the expenditures in here, so you could have $20,000 in revenue from recycling center stickers, which would never even happen, but it's not, you're still gonna have to spend that money on waste disposal. You gotta write the check for it, it doesn't,
Right, but, I'm thinking, I never know what I can collect every year,
Right.
what my revenue's gonna be for my department.
yeah, and we have those for all of the departments, the revenues, it's all part of the tax calculation.
But that's for the tax
That's the tax
calculation,
calculation.
not
Yeah.
the budget, how people are gonna operate, which is,
You want me to go through my budget line by line? Does that help? You want me to start? What's that? Does that
I-
help? I don't.
Well, I don't know, I mean, we've been through the budget line by
Okay,
line,
yeah.
it's like what, John was on the budget committee this past year, he's been through the budget line by line. I think what we would need to do is set up another meeting to say, okay, this is, if you can actually add into the line items.
Put in another column that actually has the salaries.
Right.
Broken down by department, figure out what the payroll
that
tax,
total is.
yep. Get that input into the worksheet, essentially like another line, another column here.
Yeah,
But
because
for
that-
the-
And that would be the place to start, and then from there, we need input to say, okay, what do we need, given this pool of money, where do we need to spend it?
And just as a question, since Fawn, you're sitting there and you're looking at the 24 default budget, you know, and I'm just gonna say for overtime, I know you have to cover shifts and stuff like this. But would you be able to stick with the 25 for overtime?
No. John, we have 8 employees that get vacation time. Even when I fill in, if people take vacation, you can't tell them that they can't take vacation.
Not saying
Unless,
that.
of course, there's a conflict, obviously, and there's something serious. I can't, so that happened, right? So we used to be told, and that's illegal, that we couldn't take vacation, so we could keep under an overtime line. So I'm being honest with you. So the answer is no, there's no way. And also here's this, they have, my officers have to do 24, and so do I, mandated by PSTC, 24 hours mandated of training every year. that money, so when we go to training, somebody has to cover that shift. So that, there's so many compounding factors that go to that. Also, my guys get stuck out, so do I, with crashes, suicides,
I was just asking, I understand,
No,
thank you
but-
for the explanation.
No, I want-
Yes or no was all I was looking for,
No.
but.
No, and it's gonna go up further this year, cause we're one short. So that's what I'm trying to say, is that I'm going to still overspend my budget. What's going to happen? Unless you
You have to hope that the rest of the department.
Right, the town
budgets
as a
can
whole.
Absorb
So the
that,
bottom
so that
line.
we don't go over the bottom line.
that seems scary.
It does, absolutely.
That's not going to happen, and it's not logical.
So to the point that John was making about figuring out the salaries and the benefits, I mean, if I just take that calculation that I did, if I take that $3,284,000 that covers the current staff, salaries, the benefits, the retirement, the payroll taxes, that gives us, with the default budget, $1,564,000 to work with to make the rest of the stuff happen in the town. That's your trash disposal, that's your road maintenance, that's your fuel, that's your electricity, it's everything.
So we know you've got that number, basically, it's 1 million.
Right, I wanna double check it, cause what I did was I used the proposed,
Oh, okay.
Subtracting from the.
yeah,
All right, I got 1,564,000.
that's what I said,
Yep. I know it is.
okay.
Are you open to a suggestion?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you open to a suggestion from the public?
Put it on John.
You know, as where we sit right now, sure.
So there's three line items that you increased dramatically over last year, which is the default budget. So one of them is line 4140, which is election registration and vital statistics. It was increased over last year by 33,000. I don't know why, just something to look at for you guys.
That was a difference of one election versus four, or,
Well,
wait, wasn't it?
One was budgeted last year.
One was budgeted,
Right,
okay,
one
yeah.
was, right, and where's, yeah.
And then library went up by $45,000, that's $145.50. So again, I don't know why it went up. but
Salaries.
it went up.
Salaries.
That was salaries.
And then-
7%.
To hire the new full-time librarian, which
Yeah, which is not happening,
is
which is why I'm here and not a department head.
correct.
Okay, and then Parks and Recreation went up by 33,000.
Because we were moving money to the assistant director from things, that's why that money changed.
And then in the budget committee meetings that were held before the budget was approved, was the thought that if the Parks and Recreation Department raised their rates by a little bit, that they could be self-sufficient, and that none of that money would need to be in your operating budget. Those are just
It
things
was
that-
discussed, but I don't think it's possible.
So those are just the big areas that I saw in the budget.
And I think it's unfair to ask recreation staff to have to raise their own salaries. Their salaries should be part of it.
So I would propose that we schedule another meeting in the next 5 to 7 days to look at everything again. I hate to bring you guys back again, but I mean, I think I know where we're gonna end up, but to at least make it more thorough and thoughtful.
Well, let's discuss where you think we're gonna end up. I mean, I understand we're going,
Yeah.
we need the numbers.
I think we're gonna end up at like probably $96,000 lower than what the proposed budget was, or maybe, yeah. So I think we're gonna almost meet halfway between the proposed budget and the default budget. And hopefully present that to the, again, that's just doing my math today, like John probably did his math, and
And
seeing,
that's,
okay.
you think that's, so we're gonna do that to present, to have an election, to ask for that to be our new
Right.
budget?
Yeah,
How does everybody else feel about something like that?
Take
Just
it
out of
into
question.
consideration.
This is a straw poll comment, I mean, we're not voting on anything, we're just,
My straw poll is, let's figure out where we
Yeah.
are,
yes, for,
and then, you know.
well, again, I'm just asking, because
Let's do our due diligence and see where we really are.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to, we know what we're not getting, but we have to see what we need to operate, and then we'll subtract that from the thing. So if we need to go, if you're saying the salaries here are total, or if we make sure these line items are good, like you said, line 3, we can save $5,000 there. Then I scroll down. Line 12, maybe that's $3,000 because we were only on the budget one, okay? I go down to line 17, there's $200 that we were only proposing to do, but the default increase it, so if I go through the numbers,
Right.
you know, 22, we're scratching that, that's $5,000.
So do we wanna start that tonight, is the question?
We're
I wanna
here,
get the dollar amount as far as what we need to cut, and then,
Well,
the newsletter,
289,000 at this point.
Right.
correct, which I went through it today. Cutting $289,000 is gonna hamper the town. Yeah, okay, so maybe the taxpayers would feel it and then say that sucked, but it's not fair to the department heads, it's not fair to the town itself, in my opinion. I didn't
But
recommend
that's what the town voted for.
That's what they voted
by
for.
27 votes.
Right.
But you
That's
can't, that still doesn't,
27
Yes.
votes.
27 votes.
Majority.
I know, but we have, I mean, Alan's gonna run the town, we gotta assist running the town, and I don't think.
so I
we do a
don't,
budget.
when people hear that though, default budget, they think that the town can operate on
Right.
the default budget, and then if they hear like, well, we're going to do this, so this is not on you. Please do not
He's
come
gonna
across
use
that
an
table.
example
Is
here.
he pointing at me?
Yes, if we were to say something like the police department would go back to only covering 2 shifts and not from 11 to 6, and we went back to the Rockingham dispatch, because that would cover
Yeah, we-
hours,
we
like
can't
you,
do that, because they don't have anybody either. so.
hypothetically.
Okay.
If you say something, this is the result of being on the default, and then people might be like, oh, I would have changed my vote. Now that you've told me, I think it's our responsibility to hand that to them and say, this is, we agree you thought that, but you thought we could run on 4.8. We can't. We need maybe a little bit less than we were hoping for here. Do you accept that? Because that's what we need to operate. And then I think it's our diligence to hand that to the voters and let them decide like, okay, that, we're telling you this is really how bad it is, and if we lose the $7,000 in telling them that, then,
That's the exercise we need to go through.
yeah. So excuse me, I think getting all of the, what we need down, so if we need to do this line by line, then we go through it, and then have the number. This is what we say Nottingham can operate on without a reduction in services for 2024.
I think the concern I have is that some people will say, well, let's, you know, everyone always assumes someone else's ox is gonna be gored. They will say, well, why don't we cut the library? I can actually give them a statutory reason why you can't do that, but, or, you know, it has to be really concrete, I think. Not just you may lose services or you will lose services. It's going to have to be, we are going to cut a day at the dump, or we are going to, you know, something that's concrete.
Correct.
Because right now, I think you're just gonna have someone say, well, I think they should close this, and they'll still vote no. This is very discouraging.
It is, and I don't think it's fair, like, if we go down through all, you know, you wanna be here, you know, 24/7, and the guys are doing a ton of work out on the roads, and you guys are doing the library, and the rec is extremely important for a lot of people in town, but it seems easy to attack the rec, but at the same time, they bring in the most money from any other department, so if we reduce services and then we reduce revenues, that is actually a double negative, so we're not gonna just reduce the largest income producer in town. And the fire department, you know, we have a lot of, we have full-timers, but we have a lot of part-timers, so we're not paying, or we have some part-timers and like per diem people right now, so we're not even paying their, we're not paying for medical, so that's saving us a little bit.
Not having a full-time director at the library is saving you some healthcare.
So I think we need to,
Doesn't help moving forward though into next
No,
year.
it does not.
Like,
It does not. Because I can't keep doing this.
Right.
This is not what I signed on for as a trustee, being a part-time director-ish.
yeah, so let's get the number what Nottingham needs.
Right.
So I don't know, Tim, you had some numbers which sound good, let's get to the cutting. I mean, if we wanna do it line by line, like we said, line 3, but then I know some of the numbers between the default and the proposed are a little crazy. I don't know how, I didn't get through all of them. There was, there is a,
Could you put together some kind of, even if you did a mailer to explain it to people? if you could put together some kind of a video and give 10 bullet points with a PowerPoint going in the background, this is what's gonna happen. You could put it on channel 22, you could put it up
I've seen
out there.
municipalities
So
do
on the
that.
website, so that people can actually look at it and it will be concrete for them to look at, okay, the library, this is what will happen. This is how many days it will be closed a week now. That kind of stuff.
So we didn't have to discussion of where's worst-case scenario? What are we cutting? What are we taking away if we don't get this approved? So it won't be hypothetical, it'll be real. The library will not be open on Fridays, or the rec will not be doing this programs, that's all. You know, the highway department will only be using the grader, no more adding sand and dirt to the roads. If a grader, the best we can do, that's how the dirt's gonna happen. That is basically challenging what,
Every day, you know?
and essentially what you're asking us to do is basically we're gonna have to put a thing and say, maybe the town beach. Well, the people that were opening and unlocking it, well, we can't afford them, so it's now permanently locked.
Yep.
So that beach is now closed. Because we can't afford to have the person go in. That's one of the things that's gonna be cut. I mean, so these are the bullet points that you're asking us to,
Right.
to put in there.
But if you do it in a multi.
what, a piece from everywhere.
But
I mean, is that what you're-
put it out there.
Right.
So that people aren't saying, I didn't know about this. The more informed they are, the better decisions they're gonna make.
And, right, in the hope that the scare factor works to get them out to vote towards the new budget.
I'm scared. I'm not
Right.
Well,
scared.
we're not putting out good positive vibes.
Right.
I could cut my office to be open one day a week. That would save a lot of money, wouldn't it?
Right.
But you'd still have to pay me to go in there.
Right.
Sure.
And do all the work that needs to get done.
Yeah, I can
More
speak
hours.
for my budget, almost, it always seems like I'm trying to scare you or scare the public into safety, and that's not my goal. We have to operate. Things happen in Nottingham that are really bad. We can't say no. I can't turn my phone off or turn my radio off and not do that. That's public safety. That's what the town wants, I hope. And I don't like to be pinned against other departments because we're all critical in a different way. I agree with that. It's very difficult. I feel like I definitely, like, as a police officer, I see a lot of the community. The people that I do see, they really aren't informed. I've talked to many people after the voting, and they honestly did say, I didn't know that was at stake. I don't understand the budget. I think the tax cap works because I don't want to pay any more money. But I didn't know that I would lose that service. That's very scary. So that's all. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for more information and to put it out there to the public, and knowing that we're probably gonna have to have this, doing our due diligence, you're right, trying to cut things, but having that election, doing the right thing is super important.
I can give you my line items right now.
Okay.
Where does she start?
26.
Yep.
So I don't have, I never really got the colorized budget.
There's a copy right
Yeah,
here.
there's a copy.
Lori,
You got it?
That's on the library page.
she sat in the back row instead of sitting at the table.
What page, what, am I 26 still in
Yes.
that area?
Page 1.
Pretty bad when you know what line I'm in the budget. Yep. Why can't I find it?
Oh, thanks.
So whatever it was that I was supposed to get an increase, 50 cents an hour. Take that away. Then on line item, I think it's 24. No, 31, the laptop, 1,200. Cross that out. I'm supposed to go to an annual meeting every year. They frown upon it when you don't, especially during a presidential election. Cross that out. That was for
30.
line 28?
30.
No, line 30 is equipment, and that's for my, into where?
Dues and conferences.
Dues and conferences is line 28.
We're looking
It's
at
only
different,
$750,
Why are we
but we
looking at
won't
different
spend.
things?
Yeah,
you got a different sheet you're looking at apparently.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know what number she has. She looking
Oh,
at
she's
this
looking
one?
at, you're looking at this, that's not the line items, that's the
Oh, I
row
see on
number.
this one here, line 30.
Excel spreadsheet.
Yep, line 30 is $750, you can cross that out, we just won't go.
It's 200 in the
200
default.
right now.
So the gray column is what we were proposing. So the next line
Budget.
to the right, the 200 is, what is proposed right now.
Postage, $37.50. I have no idea what we're gonna spend because of the election, but it's generally a wash anyway. Put it down to 2,500.
Well, we want it to be realistic. Like, if it, with I understand what you're trying to do, and I appreciate that, but if you go too deep, and then we have to cover it,
But I collect money.
But, so that comes in on the revenue side.
Doesn't matter.
we don't
You
wanna,
have to put in the full amount that you're appropriating.
Right, we can't,
So you expended $3,900, you might have received $2,000 of that back on the revenue side, but we're only focusing on what we have to expend.
yeah.
Well, $750 for office supplies. Oh, the laptop was already cut?
Well, it wasn't there for the default.
The 750.
We added that.
All right, it wasn't there for now.
So we're back to,
Okay.
before it was.
So the $750, that's a lot of people.
So the default did everything for you that you're talking about, unfortunately.
I've already been cut. Yep. The way, yeah.
Yeah,
right, everybody can.
This is why
Right.
we're here.
But what is important, if there's a line item there that you see is too low,
Oh, I've got the.
and you think that it needs to be slightly higher, so we can at least factor that in, then that's what we need to know.
Well, I guess the regional conference isn't really that much money. It's like $75. I can pay for it myself. And that's what I'm willing to do. Yeah, line item 32 can't be cut. I need my equipment to be going. It's like having pain in my software.
What's the election?
Election workers, I really don't have any say on what they are, and I didn't come up with that budget.
No, they get like a,
People
Hourly
may
pay.
volunteer, but- I'm sorry?
they get the election workers, they get an hourly.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like half of us at least give the money to charity anyway.
Or they
I
never,
think people
Right.
would
You can
volunteer.
keep it, Ellen gave
I
me
mean, the
the
first time I was a ballot clerk, I was surprised to find out we were paid.
But we can't go under that assumption that everybody, because there are some people that take it, so it's all or none.
and it's not only that day's workers, it's the preparation.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
right,
that-
I'm fine, but
It takes a lot of time for supervisors
the
and.
daily workers and ballot clerks, I don't. Used to always be free. Get rid of it. Yeah.
What year was that?
So, is there no line item for Elena in the default budget?
It's on line 31,
What, how many people
27.
lived here?
What would be
700?
27, I guess, it's right under the.
But there's no dollar amount for
Because
Elena.
so in the default budget, both of them were combined.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what we did was we split it out, so for transparency.
It's far more
Okay.
complicated than you realize. I don't think you realize how complicated.
And is that this final actual, basically the same thing? Line 26, 23, final actual was the combined, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we can probably excuse Lori if she doesn't want to sit here through the rest of this.
I agree, I think we could get through the department heads that are here and dismiss them so they don't have to
Yeah,
belabor through this.
That was my thought in the beginning.
Go right ahead.
Courtney?
Sure. Our budget is pretty bare bones. I kind of went through each line. I know that this year we cut the mowing line down to 15 and default is back up to 25. I mean, mowing, what?
Can you do it for 15?
In my projections, mowing this year could be around 14,000 if we don't have as much rain. We had not mowed for baseball or softball season last year either, so mowing's gonna go up. Fertilizing seed, we have to keep those fields with grass, cause we've spent so much money on them. That's about 2,000. I pay for porta potties out of that line. A big piece of this is the town beach. I don't know what to do about that until we kind of have a final decision on that. I have to order new beach lines, which are expensive. We haven't, we're not gonna include, it's not included currently into the cleanup day, so we'd have to have another cleanup day to help clean up the town beach. I do water testing when we bring the kids down there. So some of that can probably be cut if I don't have to spend that money on the town beach, but if I do, I need that. We need swim lines because if we're opening the town beach, I can't have boats come into an area where the public is swimming. So that's super, all of this is pretty, is safety related. If we don't mow the fields, that's a safety issue. So to me, that's kind of a non-negotiable. We need to buy wood chips every year for the playground, cause that flattens and goes into the grass over time, and we're getting that new play structure installed, and we need new wood chips this year. That's about 2,200. So with my projections, we're spending, or will be, around 24,000. And that's again, weather dependent and if we can mow and all that good stuff.
So that's line item 339 on the budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
And my other big item is our programs and events for general fund, which in that line includes legacy leaders. That's all free programming that we have a lot of volunteers that help, but it doesn't help with everything. We still have to buy paper goods and things like that. And that population is super important for us to maintain. We've made some huge strides in the past, and it would be really honestly a shame to have to cut that type of programming.
And to be clear, just so, the legacy leaders is
55 plus are
correct.
seniors.
I just wanna, so people
Yeah.
don't think that all rec programs are just for the youth in the town.
Yeah, no, they're for all ages, and we've really tried to make an effort this year for our holiday events to also kind of broaden to anyone that wants to come. A lot of those events in the past have been just youth focused, and that's not the case anymore. Summer concert series are all ages, those funds come out of that line. I think it's important to note that if we were to move things into rec revolving, it seems like there's a big pot of money there, and there is, but from year to year, we don't really profit. A lot, this past year, I think we made around 220,000, I spent over 200,000 out, and a lot of it is in staff salaries. So if we make a lot of moves from my general fund into rec, you're putting 2 full-time employees in a hazard area. And that's scary.
One,
Yep.
and this is more of the accounting side of things, is I would recommend that line 339 for rec park field beach, there's way too much in that one line item. I think you gotta break that out, because the budget committee always says, why are we spending $25,000 on mowing? And you try to explain that's
just
not what it
mowing.
all is, but they don't wanna listen to that. So I really do think breaking out into maybe 2 to 3 separate line items in the future, again, it's not for discussion now, but for
Yeah.
next year. I
That
would-
way, if you're just focusing on the fact that we can't open the beach, for instance, then that line item.
Yeah, so I mean, another big piece to this too, like 5 years ago, we had parks added into my job description. So that's the only money that I have to maintain Foss Fields, Marston, the town beach, some of the trail systems that we have here. The Trails Committee does a lot to help, but their budget's not very big. So we try to step up when it comes to this trail and the trails over at Marston. And we do get a lot of volunteer, but there's just stuff that we need, signage that we need to purchase. People ruin signage that has to be replaced. And I only, put in about $500 this year for a buffer in case something happens. Last year we were able to fix the fences down here at Foss Field, which had been in disarray for years. So like, having those extra funds allows me to maintain what we have, and we don't have much out there, but we need to be able to do what we can do to make those fields usable for all the kids and adults that use it. So. Yeah, our training, we go to one major training a year. That's our professional development. It's only $2,000. It's something that we really rely on. So that, I don't see where we
Did
can
you
cut.
go last year?
Yeah,
You did.
yeah. Yeah, we try to
it
go
shows
every
zero.
year.
That's under conferences?
Conferences, yep. And then we have a training line of 700, which I try to spend every year. A couple of years in the past, due to COVID and that kind of stuff, trainings were limited, but we're trying to continue. We have to get CPR certified. We have to certify lifeguards if we get them. We have to certify staff members that work with children. So all that can be used for that. A lot of that
Summer
does come
playground.
out, what?
Summer playground.
Yeah, for summer camp, but a lot of that money actually comes out of rec revolving. Because it's more than what I have in here. Office supplies, you know, we're working with $1,200, so I need ink and stuff. And the salary line is just me and half of Bridget, so I don't see any room there. Again, like I said, if I moved her salary into rec revolving, I'm already looking at possibly a $20 increase on summer camp. So an issue with that too is the more I raise rates for childcare programming, possibly the less kids can come. And we already have, our hardship line, last year's budget was moved into rec revolving, so that's now incorporated in what I have to generate to cover costs of scholarships. And then you're asking for more scholarships, which is still hitting the rec revolving fund. So again,
It's robbing Peter to pay Paul.
it is, yeah, like, we think rec revolving can cover a lot, but once you start hitting that fund and start making big purchases, that money's gonna go.
It's not revolving anymore.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, we're not working with a lot for equipment and supply. We rely a lot on volunteers, NYA. Thank goodness we have them to help clean up our fields, because we don't have a tractor, we don't have any of that stuff. So,
And I think I said it during the budget season, for anybody to think that the rec programs and everything that they offer to the town operates on, you know, $128,000 budget is, no, it's not realistic.
I will say too, in the packet you all have for last year's actual final, for our rec programs, it only has $6,000 spent. I spend pretty much the 12,000 every year, so I don't think that number is correct. I have to get with Betsy to fix that, but I keep an Excel sheet and
In the
I-
programs?
yeah, so I spend most of that line every year, if not all of it.
Right, and we gotta look up at that line 337, because that's zero right now, saying that you didn't
Yeah.
go to the conference
Right,
that you
but
said you went
I thought you
to.
said you didn't go to.
So we actually pay for it the year prior, because I pay for it in November and we don't go until January of the following year. So that line is right, because I'll pay for next year's in November, if that makes sense.
Cause there isn't one this year.
This year's already paid.
We've already gone to January, but we paid that with last year's. So is that line,
It says zero.
oh, it does, that's wrong, yeah, yeah. So I have a spreadsheet that we have, and I'll make sure Betsy gets on the same page with me, so we can fix those, because those aren't accurate. The only other one that I have 1,500 in there for an overtime salary line. That was put in there when my assistant went full-time. I do believe I figured that it would be spent, but I think Betsy takes that out of rec revolving as well. So I guess if that's a line that needs to get cut, that can probably go, because rec can handle $1,500. I gotta pay her anyways if she works over that, so.
And that's that.
And that's that.
Did we cover everything for the library? I believe so.
Did we cover everything for the
There should
library?
be
I mean, I
like
guess.
3 line items.
Yeah, well, and I think that, the point that I'm going to make, is that you can look at that 2023 actual final with the salary line. That's not, we have historically returned money back to the town because we have not been fully staffed for a number of years. There will not be an excess this year. We are, if we go to default budget, yeah, so that's, we'll spend every money, every cent in the salary line. The concern that I have, that I wanted to raise, is that this will be our, I think, 6th consecutive year with the same operating budget. We make it work, but our cataloging system has increased in price. Our downloadable books fee, which is assessed by usage, has gone up. As a matter of fact, in the last 2 years, the price has jumped 30%. We've had to change our phone lines, those are more expensive. Our alarm system is, so basically, all of our fixed costs are going up, up, up. The only discretionary areas in our budget are books and programming. We are prohibited by law from charging for any programs. And, you know, basically, we are getting into the position where we're not buying books. Fewer and fewer books, and that's kind of our thing. It's eating away at our ability to function, I guess. So, if you have questions, I can bury you in numbers, but I won't do that. We don't have anywhere to cut.
Thank you.
We've covered phone.
Highway.
What? So, Steve, I guess we're at you.
I don't really see anything to cut. I mean, prices of everything's going up. Culverts, cutting edges, fuel, materials, stone. I mean, salt. We didn't use as much salt, but I don't know.
But it still costs more, yeah.
Right, and well, so I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of work to be done, and I don't know where to cut it.
Where would you not do work, is might be the question. And again, it's a sad question.
like
I'm not
TI.
pointing you out as an individual, but where, there's stuff that's gonna say, hey, guess what? I'm sorry that if X amount of roads that are around the lake, you know, I'm sorry that the potholes are there and stuff like this, but the gravel's just not available.
Right,
And that's what it is.
right. And potholes and the paved roads.
They are. I mean,
You know,
we grade
roads-
them, but that's all you can
Roads that
do.
we were gonna try to, you know,
Shim.
shim and pave are gonna get coal patch, if that,
Right.
you know, not a pretty picture. You know, we can cut brush and clean ditches, needs to be done, but bigger projects need to be done as well.
Can we get rid of some of the highway, the hired contractors? Do you think now that we got a full staff,
Possibly, but
maybe an area we can cut? Maybe?
except I think hired contractors is the snowplow guys and stuff. You know, that, you cut them and then
Or is it Fallon for his grading and mowing?
it might be some of that.
I think some of it
Yep.
is.
Yep. I mean,
don't know.
I wasn't here last year,
I
so,
know.
but yeah, there is some of that, but I mean, But he also does the roadside mowing. We don't have a mower,
Right,
so,
which to me is important.
right. Oh, yeah, oh,
We're also
definitely.
already $78,000.
And the knotweed,
over on that line item To the fall budget.
Which one?
The
hired equipment.
higher equipment, we're already $78,000 over the default budget on that one line item.
265?
263.
Oh, hired, well,
The plowing,
yep. Thank
and
you.
that number's accurate.
Yes.
Hired plowing just for this year,
No,
we're at
that line item was
140,000.
over because we were so short-staffed though, right? So that, we, this was 23 total, which includes the spring of 23.
Correct.
I'm just saying this.
Yes, we had a lot of subcontractors, felt because we only had 2 highway staff for the first half of 23.
No, but for 2024, year-to-date,
Yes.
we spent $140,000.
From January
Oh,
to
over to
now.
here, okay. You're, that one,
And I do have to look at that because I know that Talon
last year.
for roadside mowing and the grading that he did in the late fall, I know some of that invoicing came in late, so I
But she
have to.
did it. Well, look, when we signed the invoices, it was for 2023, so is it possible that she?
That's what I need to verify, is that I have to find out exactly what the detail of that 140,000 is, because it would be subcontracted plowing plus potentially some of those.
We'll just, it'll get put to another line item.
Well, no,
It
get
is.
it put towards last year.
Oh, that's true. If it was,
It was supposed to be encumbered in 2023.
right. Gotcha.
Right.
And I hate not to put culverts in, cause just a bad idea.
the list gets longer of culverts that need to be replaced every day.
I know. We're way behind now. Screening, can we cut any of that?
Screening. We're doing our own.
We're doing that, so we're not paying out for that. Okay, good. Yeah, other than that, I don't know where you,
for the salt, do we, like, are we in a contract for a certain tonnage?
We estimate, so normally, we estimate based on the prior year consumption, so I think for this contract, like with Morton Salt, we estimated 1,700 ton, and we've only purchased like 500 or 600 tons.
So then if we,
and how's that contract work?
Right.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know that Tim had mentioned like, hey, let's,
Problem is, next year it'll reflect in the price.
okay, like if we break
price of
contract,
what?
usually people don't like you to break contracts, so.
Because we didn't buy enough.
Well, I mean, the fortunate part about the salt is for the most part, we piggyback on the state contract.
Right.
So we get that pricing regardless of whether or not we didn't fulfill our contract the year prior.
Okay, so there might, that's, I just wanna make sure like we're not, some contract break ends up costing $20,000, so it's like, well, that's not even worth breaking contract or something like that.
So can we live without the engineering consulting fee?
Yes,
We're
to an
getting,
extent.
we're getting some of that
I
in
mean,
town.
a lot of that's going to be for some of your larger culvert replacements that the highway department can't do to help with the wetlands permitting and all of that, but,
Depending on what we got for a budget, will that even happen this year?
right.
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 Drug testing's random.
And that's required.
Right. So it's just, that's a ballpark number.
Which we spent $633 last year, so we're,
Because we had, we had new hires. So
right,
the initial testing for the new hires and then
Right.
the regular quarterly.
now to just, yeah, it's going to a different department, I'll wait until we are done talking to Steve.
I mean, if we look at the highway department alone, the default budget is $115,000 higher than what we proposed, so.
Right.
Well, because you put so much in the warrant article.
Right.
So I'm kinda,
Nope, that's excluding that, because that's line 282
But that, we're already 37%.
expended, correct?
Like being, we were only proposing 100,000 for salt for 24, the default jumps it back up to 122. So there's like a $22,000 just if we were to cut back to what we were proposing. Highway fuel, I think we had made it, you know, there's another $10,000. Engineering consulting is another $10,000. Truck maintenance or sandstone and gravel's 5, but that's high because we kind of were chasing our tails this spring, trying to make people's cars not disappear.
and the stone went crazy in price this year.
Yep. And then, but then, all those numbers sound great, but then when you look at the, that's what we gotta figure out on the actual of 24, but the highway equipment plowing. We were only budgeting 37,000 and the default 75, but then it's saying we already spent 140, which is a potential carryover issue from 23. And then there's the 200,000 itself for the road maintenance. Do we need to maintain the department heads here any longer? I've kind of heard them all for that.
Good.
Yeah.
And we'll just have to kind of, I mean, it was just to see if there's anything immediate, and then as we kind of go through everything else, like the solid waste disposal, the dump, fire department, we'll take a quick look at those and then see what line items. Instead of you guys just sitting here all night staring at us while we,
Is it intimidating?
Yeah.
I'm sure you got
Maybe
someplace you'd
one of-
rather be.
I mean, I really am passionate and care about our budget, so I mean, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna go sit in the back of the room. and-
You can stay there.
yeah, if
I'm
you
just-
don't want to leave, don't, I'm just
not-
saying if,
I'm just saying I care, so. Feel bad that we're in this spot.
Thank you, guys. If there's other questions, we'll be contacting you. So, I presume there will be, so. Yay. Wouldn't go that far, but.
now, I know you were saying we can't change revenues to offset expenditures, but for like the solid waste, the dump, the recycling center, for like the collection fees, if we were to do, let's say we did something like the sticker or something like that, which would, or change the fees for disposing of stuff, would that reduce the?
It's only gonna change when it comes to
It
the
wouldn't
tax
reduce the
rate
trucking
setting.
costs, that's right, it wouldn't reduce the trucking costs. It would reduce, all right, that's just the same thing. What's that line item actually come out to for 284? Since we're down to 3 people. Is that over here in this, is this,
Yes, that's included in that.
that's this one over here, the 8.5 by 11?
Yes, so that would be in,
Cause see, you still have it the 110, but we only have 3 people.
yes, so this was what we were working off of to figure out the merit pay increases, this spreadsheet here.
Okay,
And then it was reduced when we were going through the budget review process, so that is a number right there that can be, it needs to be adjusted to the actual,
right.
which would be the Well, the 110,500 was proposed. 93 was a default.
But we don't have 4 people there.
Correct. We're at 3 right now. So that was factoring in 4 part-timers working 32 hours a week.
And then for the we still have an open police position right now. Jeez. It's over here. And then the library, we don't have a permanent, we're just, for just going through, the salary for the library, there is no head, so
Correct,
that.
well, we have an interim director.
Okay.
She is part-time, she
Yeah.
is paid hourly.
Okay,
The difference between the request and what our actual is something like 22K. So in other words, the entire difference in the salary line was not just hiring of a
Okay.
full-time director. It was the raises that we gave and the hiring of a full-time director.
okay.
Does that make sense?
No, it does, I just wanna make sure, like,
I just wanna make sure I'm clear.
no, like, for like the recycling center's been operating at 3 people for a while, we don't have a 4th person yet, so I don't need to say that we're gonna be, if we're operating at 3, we just need to be tracking, that's what we need to spend is for 3 right now, we have an
Oh,
opening.
got it, I understand.
We have an opening
In
and
other words,
we're,
we're not planning on going out with an application for a full-time director at this point. We would not be able to offer a salary that would be commensurate for a position.
okay, but that salary line item should pretty much be what it is based off who's covering it in the part-time manner and the rest of the library salary. So that's been reduced, salary secretarial.
Well, the planning board, we got $6,500 there.
Yes, sir.
Kenry with not having any members?
We got a full board, just one person missing.
Really?
Yep,
Oh, nice.
All write-ins.
yep.
Which part are you talking about, the 65?
Line 158.
That one for the SRPC membership or whatever?
We had a discussion at last, what was it actually a meeting, because we didn't have a quorum, but whatever, that was a discussion on that, if we were, our planning board member that's the rep for that, was asking whether she should go or not, because she didn't feel like if we weren't paying dues members and she didn't have a vote, why would she need to attend?
Yep.
So, if we expenditure that money back to 0 and say, hey, we're not, it's 6,500 more bucks, I'm just saying. We were already cutting it, so.
Yeah. Yep. Line for the salary for the secretarial, is that about what we're expecting that to be?
That is a combination of our minutes taker for the select board meetings and the administrative assistant position, so obviously with that position being vacant,
But
we'll
we're,
have some room, but obviously, once we get it committed, we'll have to.
right, and you plan on being about the same, levelized about where you were, because that's about that's like at the going rate.
That's the hope. It's gonna depend on the hiring process and what we're negotiating with.
Okay, I'm just going through the 8.5 by 11 and making sure what our salary line is correct for what it is, so. Like yours, you've already marked down over here, and then tax collector, that's that.
Right, so whatever vacancies that, for periods of time or whatever, that.
Saves us a little bit, but like, we definitely need to fill the
Right,
But-
yeah,
Kelly's old position.
yeah. And she wasn't vacant very long.
If you bring it back for a vote, you wanna leave it in there
Oh,
because.
well, yeah, no, I'm just saying at this
But
point,
right now, we're trying to
For
figure out
today's
what,
purpose.
what does Nottingham need to
Right.
operate for the rest of twenty-four? So I'm just
Right.
making sure this, her salary worksheet has the correct
get
numbers
it.
as I look through it.
Yeah, you don't want, you can't put in the full, or you shouldn't put in the full
Right.
amount if,
Like this, like I said, the recycling center salary is probably gonna be lower than that, cause we're only at 3. If we do get another person, that, but
Well, you
seem
also-
to be working at 3.
I'm just making notes on things to cut. That's what I'm, just to try to see how close we can get to a number
Yep.
before saying that we have to go towards the election. Nothing, but the vote.
Right.
Correct.
So I'd like to see, is what I would, this person gonna sit here and try to look at. What I've been doing is trying to see numbers of where we can go to actually see if we can come close to where that default budget number needs to be. You know, but we still have to leave, I mean, enough in there too for fluff, you'd wanna say, for the fact of the police department going over, or for line items to go over.
Yep.
So even if we meet the default budget, we still gotta think of how much more can we actually save, so the fact that if we do need to overspend in a line item, that we have that extra money in our budget.
Correct. Yep.
So are we starting back at line 2?
Well, again, I'm just going through, I'm making little notes myself, again, I don't know whatever, it's, you know, cause we had a line item for the salary maintenance guy for $10,000. But we don't have that guy, cause we cut it off before, so we know that 10,000 was in the
Well, we're
default
working
budget.
off the encumbered funds for the facilities manager.
Right.
right, but is that gonna cover us?
It's a subcontracted position, so, yes, it's not based on, you know, whatever hours. So just for him to oversee the buildings is the 40,000 a year, and then any maintenance that's done comes out of the building maintenance. Either line item, or we have to request withdrawal from the expendable trust fund.
Yeah. But that's not a budget issue.
So that's what, it's $10,000.
But then
That's $10,000.
the health
That's
insurance,
technically not, we're not relying on that $10,000. We had removed it from the proposed budget, so
Yeah, that's
that's an
fine.
item. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was just saying, like, cut it,
Right.
it's there.
10,000, we can move someplace.
That's what I mean, that, it seems like that comment I made went really
It did.
from just saying, yeah, John, there you go, 10 grand. That's all I was looking
so
for.
the health insurance line item, that's higher than the default,
Which line item?
89,
Okay.
right? Is that what you're saying? Is health insurance not 15%?
So 89 should be reflective of what we needed for 2024. The 437,583 is based on the current staffing levels and the plans.
But the,
Less than.
my point is the default budget does not.
The default budget does not include that, correct? So
But
that's one of
like-
those things
So
that,
either we eliminate staff to bring that number down, or
We have to
that's another
realize,
$50,000
we need to
cut.
find, yeah.
Right, I mean, we gotta pay our people and pay their benefits.
4 3s.
So my point is when you're looking at the default budget, you almost have to add that $50,000 in, or cut even more than what we're looking at.
But we
because-
can't add it in to.
No,
because-
not, I'm saying in our minds, as far as
Yeah.
what we gotta cut, you gotta cut.
Right, if we make a bunch of cuts, even if we
Right.
make it, you know, take John's and all the ones we've cut 50,000, okay, we've just secured that line that we've talked about for health insurance, that is a requirement. And then we keep scalping down
So
through.
it's technically $349,247 we're gonna cut,
If we factor in that.
if we factor in the health insurance. Because that's an item that you can't, I mean, even though it's not in the default budget, we've got those employees and we're gonna have to pay their health insurance.
Yeah. Yep.
Can you say that number again for me? 349?
So that's,
No, it's, 329,247, around that.
we may have saved a little bit of that from vacancies too. But
I think it's
it's
based
only,
upon
it's
current-
only
well, maybe.
March.
so.
Where are we at?
Right in the middle of a rock.
In a hot bud?
Yeah. I was gonna say trouble.
Yeah.
And just like that Lori's laptop, I don't know if that's like a grant type of thing, we can try to find the $1,200 to,
In order to make it happen, that's how we do it.
to,
To see if there's like a technology fund out there, I mean, the
Right.
library was just able to,
yeah, that's, some of that stuff, like the one-time expenditures, try to get smart on that, grant for that, and and then,
So the general assistance, the social services, that total was around 30K.
it was 25,000.
50.
Correct. But then the social services, in the budget, we dropped it down to 67. The default is 12.3.
Which line you in, Tim?
He's looking,
Line 314.
correct, the one above the social services.
Yes, so line 314 is your general assistance, and then again, you have to have something in there because you don't know potentially
Right.
what could be coming through.
So if we go with our proposed budget, which was lower than the default budget.
Correct.
And then plus the 25,050 that was on the warrant article.
Yep.
It's about $30,000 right there, right? I'm just trying to show you the math.
Yeah.
So between
That's
that
fine.
plus the $10,000 on page 1 of the budget, which is the town administrator salary and Pawtucket Lake Advisory, and then the 6,500 for planning board, you're basically at 47,500. Just in those items, you're getting close to replacing the health insurance.
That's
Yeah.
all we've accomplished.
And now we're looking at $289,000 to cut, is my point.
Good job.
Yeah.
Help to say that reflects 6% decrease across the board? Not really, but I mean, it sounds nice.
It's not a decrease, though, Skip. And then the election department, I mean, you can't change that.
We're already overspent.
Right.
I mean, there's
Line
other line,
43 is up over.
I mean, if you even just look at line 7, the printing, we were only gonna budget $2,500, but then we just spent $6,000 because of the town report. Like, that, we did spend that.
Yeah, right.
That money's gone.
The town, yeah, exactly, the printing, yeah,
So there's, $3,000 that's not even in the default that we have to account for.
I assume that printing is all, we don't need any, well, we will need extra printing if we do an extra election,
All right,
but
so
it should be pretty minimal.
if we take the executive, which would be line items 2 through 25,
Yep.
proposed budget was 266,510, default's 275. So if I make those reductions for town admin salary, the Pawtucket Lake Host program, if we remove the merit compensation pool, which is essentially any pay increases for this year, because there's no money to do so. And go for default on just about every other line item. We could reduce that budget alone by 70,000.
Line,
Oh, so we know that we can go lower on the newsletter.
Always canceled.
Right. The newsletter, I actually pulled down to the 4,000 that was proposed in the operating budget for
How
this
much
year.
did we spend already, Larry?
2,700.
We spent 2,700?
Stop
So-
with that.
I mean, if we do the rest of, right, we could stop with that. Do the rest online. 'Cause that's our one year anyway, that we kinda talked about.
Yep.
No, 2703, it's right there.
like for that town report, you know, we were saying, oh, we're gonna be 25, but we should probably, looking forward, make sure we budget that correctly at like 6,000. If the town report's costing us $6,000 to print every year.
Yeah, I know.
But half of that's coming back from the school. That, so we
Oh.
just paid the invoice, so we pay the total invoice, and then the school pays their half of the book, so,
Okay,
So,
500.
it's not reflected correctly.
Okay,
well, it's on the offsetting
It's-
revenue side that we're not looking,
Okay.
again,
But,
right.
it should still be budgeted for the correct amount, and the revenue should be
Correct,
not,
right.
we shouldn't
so that's what I'm
budget
saying
for
is
a
I don't-
offsetting amount.
I don't think it's been, I think you're correct in saying that it was not budgeted correctly, because I don't know that we're reporting that as an offsetting revenue on the other side either.
Right, we probably aren't, because we did things pretty
So when that
loose a
money
lot of
comes back in
times.
for the school's portion, I don't know if it gets applied to the expenditure.
It's gotta be because.
It's gotta be, because last
three
year was
times-
only,
We spent 3 times what we did last year. when we budgeted
exactly.
Right,
it.
right, and that's happened a lot in the past, and it's killing us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 'cause it.
If you
it
have
was
real
easy
numbers to
when we
work
did-
with, it's a lot
When we
easier.
did town meeting, it was easy to do that, because it was like, oh, well, you know, we get 1,000 back from the school, we'll just offset the expenses, and it's less paperwork, but we can't do that.
You could explain it.
Right, you could explain it before, and it didn't matter, because it was town meeting, and you
line 8,
figured it out.
do you need to go, like, last year we spent 11,000 for conferences. This year we had budgeted 55 as
So
those.
it's not necessarily for conferences, a part of that is our membership with New Hampshire Municipal Association, which gives us the free legal services and
Okay,
the access to like the right to know webinars and all the other trainings that they do, so.
so that
there's
54 is, or the 50
Is, yes.
is
Um,
just that.
We have not double expended that, so I'm thinking what happened is the 2023 actual might be a portion of the 2024 dues. I think they might have got paid and applied,
All right, well,
because it's about $5,400 a year.
okay. So 2024 actual might be half of 23 actual final
Correct.
for line 8.
Again, this is why it's tricky that we're working off the unaudited year-end totals, because some of the stuff may change, like,
Yeah.
it could just be that.
And then line 12, software licensing. You were budgeting 1, we're showing 4.
Yep,
We've
so-
already spent 13.
Right.
What do you think you need there?
That's the online backup, so it's based on,
Right, I think we went over that, and that's what it was gonna cost us.
We've already, right, we said it was gonna be 1,000, we've already spent 1,400.
well, because what we ended up doing, so the software licensing, and then if you go into the service contracts and equipment maintenance on the next line item, there was some that was in both of those, so we just increased that line item to cover, so now 13, that software licensing is just that online backup. where in the past it was inclusive of like Microsoft Office subscriptions, which are now part of our IT expenditure. They bill us for however many users
So
have
that's
an
in the
Office
next line
365
down.
account, correct? So if we just go, I mean, 18.9 is the default budget, and I was looking for 21,000 collectively between the two line items for moving forward. That's a more realistic number, but.
Okay, so then there's 3 there, 200 there to there. Lake Advisory, newsletter, we're down to 4, so there's 33. Miscellaneous, all right, so did that. Mm, 26, the default comes out to about what it needs to be for those two, or does that need to be,
I
realistically need to be, what are those 2 line items? 26.6. And another 56. Postage, we're gonna have to leave it around 4. I'm just writing the line items out and I'm just gonna add everything up. See what it comes out as.
I had money in for the deputy.
So that, 26 and the blank beneath it are combined into the line item. So before it wasn't split out, that's why they don't show a line for the deputy.
It was split out in 2023 because there was actually an increase for the deputy that was raised on the floor, so we needed to show
So
that
that'll
it
work.
wasn't Lori getting an increase,
Okay.
it was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a wash.
Yep. There's mileage.
So the new town clerk total will be, where it is?
26 fund.
For the line 26, yeah, 26.6.
The 36, what's the,
All the way at the end? Yeah, I'm good.
Up with like 91,661 based off of what Lori was stating for figures.
What'd you say for a number?
91,661.
Yeah, like 91, 913, but I think I rounded the postage to 4,000 because that seems more realistic than with all the elections going on. There's gonna be a lot of postage this year.
That's not town clerk, but it's in your elections, right?
Yeah, so the postage is when she mails out the registrations, and then she collects
Is it
the
this
money back in
postage?
for the postage.
Then what's this postage? We have collected regular,
Line 31 is just specifically for the town clerk, so that would be your.
but she talks about absentee ballots
Right, the
in line
absentee
31.
ballot stuff, I think, comes out of that postage, the first one.
That's the only reason that's where it shows up. We can correct that later on. I think that's splitting hairs at this point. We have to. And then the salary, so we gotta look for another, what, almost 9,000 there. $8,900 roughly for the elections for workers. We gotta come up with that.
Yeah,
And
we'd go from 27,288.
Okay, yeah, that's right, that's just the election work, not the supervisors, so. 2,800. There's another 14.
Right, so basically that's,
Postage, printing is kind of a wash, wherever that comes up, we can probably, we only spent 4,000. 30-day letter, checklist printing, forms, ballots printing, so that one probably should,
right, so they asked for 500 for that instead of 1,000.
right, and to Tim's point, I think we're gonna have to change that going forward, that the absentee ballot, if it's postage relating to an election, it should be tracked here and
Yep.
not up in the town
On
clerk.
the town clerk.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Election printing, I can't see that number going down from the proposed or the default because of all the things that we have coming up.
That's the ballots and stuff, I believe.
And then training, we've already spent 1,000. Do you know if we're gonna need any?
It's a primary and general election that they're gonna have specific training on, so that is,
That's gonna come up.
And then if we get the new ballot machine, if it's approved by the state, we can have that training too.
That's,
but that should come from the manufacturer, I would think,
and that,
as part of our support.
Do we probably pay a salary for the people to show up and take the training?
so that's not happening before November, so
What part?
The
the
training.
new ballot machine won't be before November. We're still using the old one.
Okay.
They extended that.
So we need maybe another 2,000 for line 43. We've already spent 1,000 and then he said we need more.
But John, so to your point, it can't be used for the November election, or it's not required?
To my understanding, they're still using the old one for the November election. That's my understanding. So,
They don't
is it required or not, I don't know, but I know that, it's my belief and understanding that the current machine will be used for the presidential.
Excuse me.
I think when the supervisors presented their proposed budget to us, I think it was, according to the notes, it was just for election worker training for the primary and general elections. So I think that $3,200,
If that new machine comes in before November.
I don't think it has anything to do with the machine, it's just strictly for those
Right, they're
elections, so.
Or the old one.
We're having issues with the new one.
Did the election get their laptop? Did we end up buying that?
We bought one last year, they need 2 more.
Is that due to the new machine or they just need 2 more anyway?
Just need 2 more. They've been working off the downs.
Okay.
Yeah, they have to run
They have to have
Windows 11.
certain, yeah. And they're beyond the point of being able to update
Yeah.
11. They have, so.
So that line's gonna come up. It's not in the default, we need to try to find that. Again, maybe a technology grant or something, but,
Right.
Yeah, so there's three computers that were not factored into our proposed budget, and they were removed from the default budget because the one that we did purchase last year was considered a one-time expenditure.
So if we find grants that are for specific things, we don't necessarily expend those funds because they come in as grants and for something special, so, right?
You're still spending the money, so you still have to have a public hearing to accept the funds, and at that time, you determine what the grant money is going to be used towards as an appropriation outside of your operating
Right,
budget.
right, but it's outside the budget.
Correct.
That's what,
so yeah, we gotta come up with quite a bit of money for the election.
Yeah.
The election
It's a hard
department
year.
total.
Using what they originally proposed for this year to factor in the 4 elections, 2 of which have already taken place.
That's kind of what we have to do, I think.
Yeah, we're gonna have to be pretty close to that 45 number.
45,601.
Okay. Financial salary bookkeeper, that's. Need to be 5370, okay, it's gonna come up. Tax collector, increase in this. What was that stipend increased? It is the 16,242 for the line 51?
That was an increase that she proposed.
Okay. So,
So because it's a stipend, it doesn't factor into the merit compensation.
yeah. Were you looking at that over there? 6. Salary of the treasurer, flat. Auditors, flat. Nothing really to show there. I mean, basically everything we're short from 58 to 61 can be made up by the overage in 65. Looking down just through quickly there, nothing there. Assessing department. Mapping, do we think, we spent 6 before, so we might need that 1,000.
We need to update for new subdivisions and.
Right. Yeah, we spent 6 last year. Default is 5. We were looking to get 6, so.
Right.
The contract for the assessor up above, line 79.
Yep, that's part of a multi-year contract.
So is,
But then there was also some specialized field work that he had to do that was over about that,
so that would probably be the difference between the 28,000.
and the 31,863,
Okay.
correct?
So we'll, that can stay levelized, 28.
The 28's good?
The 28's our contract. If he did extra work, it would go up.
Right.
28's, it's a contract, so that's what, again, what do we need to do? If we can't do the other part, then
Right.
we'll figure that part out. I'm just going through and just saying the numbers like we're going through here, what do we need to do?
No, I get it. It's good.
58's what it is, 88. We already talked about 89, it's gotta be that 437 number. What about 90, life insurance, is showing that down $600, it's, we were proposing 25, we're getting 31.
So it's all based on,
Excuse me.
no, it's a benefit that the town provides. It's a life insurance policy for full-time employees up to a max salary of 50,000, so it's going to be based on the number of full-time employees.
Who take the option?
No, who's got the option, it's a given.
Oh, okay.
So that
But
2,500,
the premium increases each year based upon their age.
is the 2,500 number good then? Because,
Cause the default goes to 31.
Yeah, I think that was one of the areas I identified that we could reduce because it was overstated.
Okay.
Same thing with the short-term disability and the long-term disability. Those were actually rates that went down in health trusts.
But don't worry, 90, 93 and 94 are right back up. So our 93 and 94.
93 and 94 are going to be based on the salaries at present levels, so those are the ones that we need to make sure carried forward into this.
Actually, all the way down through, right? The unemployment,
retirement,
all
the
that
FICA,
stuff,
Medicare.
that's, so we're gonna, if those numbers need to be like tightened up what they need to be. And then we can figure, cause the default's like way short on 95, right? The police department retirement, or
yeah,
even the employer Medicare
Right,
is
because there was-
7,000 short.
Because there was their fiscal year, so when the retirement rates fluctuate,
Gotcha. but then we'll need to know what we need to spend
So-
there.
So payroll, we probably need closer to the sorry,
The failed
Wow.
proposed.
if the failed is okay, I mean, cause actual was 78.
97, right?
Yeah, but I think a lot of that's reflective on the fact that we were so short-staffed across the board.
Okay.
Right.
So I think once we firm up, again, the salaries at the present staffing levels, then nail down that number.
Probably don't change much from the 949 though.
No, I don't,
No, not significantly.
Right.
But every buck helps.
Right. Planning board secretary, that's level, planning board planner.
so the planning board planner, that was an area that we identified as a place to reduce, not requiring the SRPC rep at every meeting, only those that the planning board thought he needed to be attending, so, I mean, I think we can go with the proposed budget number of 22,000 for that.
Right.
Okay. Planning board postage is a reimbursable expense, so that's kind of a wash.
It was a plug figure.
Conferences. Advertising, reimbursable expense, so we just need to have like a number there that we pay out, but we get it back.
Right, we don't think we needed that advertisement.
If they, yeah,
They charged
The person for it.
right.
correct. Legal service, that's fine. What's 114? It says it's reimbursable, but I just don't understand, I can't, the account name is all shortened.
Yep, so it's engineering, so whenever they have a specific project that requires us to bring in our, town planner or engineering service to do oversight or to review as-built plans to make sure that everything's in compliance, then expenditure, and then the applicant reimburses us for that, so. It's not a line item that we budget for because there's no town obligation, we just front the money and then we get reimbursed for it.
Okay, and then the miscellaneous, the SRPC dues, we're cutting that, we're making that. Okay. Zoning, do they have a secretary?
So, Alana does both the planning and the zoning, but she doesn't, it's very few hours that she dedicates to the zoning board. I mean, they only meet once a month where the planning board meets every other week, so her position is more detail oriented towards that. It's not worthwhile for her to just break out the amount for the zoning board, so if you look at them collectively, all of her salary is
Okay,
attached to the planning board side of it.
So we're good with the $20,000 figure,
from the previous, yeah, line,
the planning board.
Yep, for the planning. board.
line 101.
That's what we moved. Right. We took the money out of there and put it all over there.
Right.
So that's 2,400, should we use somewhere else? Zoning board advertising, is that reimbursable? Make a note of that, we can line item that down to $1, right? Or count the 400. Anything else on there, the publication, dues, conferences? Is that the only one that's reimbursable, probably?
Yes.
What about the postage?
The postage is to mail out the member packets in advance of the meeting. If there's postage for a butters notice, that's coming in from the applicant.
So I saw that too. The meeting on the planning board that I took over for John, I mean, there was a hefty packet that comes in that we mail out that you get before the meeting, is that?
That, you know what, I wasn't in favor of that happening, but other members were, and that's why we do it that way. But that is something that's absolutely expendable, they can come in and get it.
Right, they could
Problem
just
was
be
they were
sent.
worried about, yep, or it's online, but there were some members that wanted to have it, time in advance, so that they could review it at home before coming to the meeting. Where in years past, again, yeah, I mean, I got one the other day, and it was $8 it cost the town to send me the packet.
Right. Seems like something you definitely have in here, and then you can either take it electronic or come in and get the paper copy beforehand.
I look at mine electronically, but it's all right there for me.
And then when you come into the meeting, you can have the paper, the bigger prints if you need.
Sure.
All right, 125,
Hey,
is
I say,
that,
cut that, that's absolutely, cut it. Cut that from both. If the members don't like it, then, well. I don't know,
Should have voted appropriately.
is what it is.
or at least make it $1 for the 2 postage ones. See, the planning board one says it's a reimbursable expense, but, so they,
Well, it's that part, or
Landowner pays for
a
it.
portion, okay.
that's for when you are doing subdivision, you have to,
So
lot
how
line
does that-
adjustment.
So how does that work when it comes to revenues and expenses? Did we actually expend that, or should we collect that up front?
So there should be an offsetting revenue for the applicant fee side of it. It was reduced at the budget committee.
I thought when we had looked at this last year, it was the postage for this one and for the, planning board, that it wasn't done that way, which is why that the person actually pays for the postage to the town.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I thought.
That's what
The
my
town, so
understanding.
the person pays for the postage for the abutters notices, but as far as mailing out the member packets, that is
No,
a
yeah,
town
that one,
expense.
but, okay.
So I think that's why we kept the $500 in there, was to cover that, because like John said, $8 per packet.
For the
I
zoning.
think that's probably,
All right, so the zoning one can definitely be cut, the other one, half of that could be cut, and the other half is mandatory, but that is covered by the applicant. All right, community center,
it's something that we're gonna have to verify when we're looking at the revenues for the next budget season, to make sure
Yeah.
that there is an offsetting in there.
community center,
If we could take the revenues and leave them out of the expenses so that it's just
Just a wash.
offset directly, that'd be way cleaner. But I'm not sure how to do that.
I don't know that it will necessarily be way cleaner, because then we're just gonna show that we overspend it all the time.
Well, no, I mean, if we don't actually do the expending, if,
We make
The-
the applicant give us postage paid envelopes, is that what you're saying?
or something, or whatever,
Well, usually, I'm pretty sure it's when they come in and they see Dale things, and he goes, all right, this is it. And they put the contact butter list, they say, 1, 2, 3, 4, you got 6 of butters. The cost to certify, all those are, or the X amount of dollars.
Right.
Added to the actual fee cost of what it
Right.
is.
but that becomes a revenue and expense that kind of messes with the budgeting process.
Simpler.
Depends on, yes, simpler in one way.
excuse me,
Well, because then,
In
right, the other way,
this
I mean,
process.
so looking at line 125, salary cleaning,
So
is
that's
that,
contracted now.
is that the
So even though it's
contract?
an increase, we're seeing a reduction. It was previously an employee position, so we were having payroll taxes, we were having FICA and Medicare, so even though it's showing an increase on the side, we're actually seeing a reduction on the payroll tax side.
Okay, but is 25 good, or does it need to be 28?
No, it needs to be 28, so the 28.2 was based on the contracted amount.
So
So that
that's,
should have been, but again, if the default rate was 25 too.
Yep.
But because we're talking about the default budget, the salary side of the payroll
This
portion,
is
the
a
payroll
contracted
taxes,
position, so.
it's, yeah,
so that's 3,000 there, we gotta come up.
but it's not a multi-year, I mean, like, we can cancel it at any time, so.
The salary for maintenance, I'll just, now that we're back at this again, you're saying
We can cut the $10,000.
okay, or use it elsewhere, but.
use it
Right.
elsewhere, right?
Okay. Looks like we have 1,000 on line 27. It jumped back up to 6, 5 seems to be pretty close to the number. 5.
Yep.
So that, I'm just saying, that's approximately 1,000, we might get there.
And that's just because, I mean, with the availability of the supplies, we can get just about everything that we need delivered within a few days. I'm not stocking as much as we were in the past.
Yep. Recycling, the 130, the 8,000, is that due to some of the emergent stuff we had for that one? Like, is 5,000 a fair number?
We had to, when we put the new furnace in there, we ended up insulating the building.
So hopefully
Because it
that's the
wasn't
one.
it wasn't insulated before, so we put a new furnace in and everything was just blowing out through the walls, so they actually insulated it, so that would be a one-time thing.
So this-
$5,000, I mean, this is one of those areas that you talked about earlier, if we have the $150,000 in the expendable trust fund, do we need these individual line items? Is that an area that we can identify
Right.
to reduce and use that expendable trust fund for
Right, if we
items
have-
as they come
yeah.
up? I mean, part of this is going to be, you know, our boiler furnace maintenance, HVAC, annual maintenance, the cleanings.
Right, we want to keep that. in
So
the
you do
regular
wanna have
budget.
some money in there for general maintenance, but for something like that, like if we had to insulate, then that should come out of the building maintenance fund, not necessarily.
Yeah, I guess 130 shouldn't be considered building maintenance, but like recycling building supplies, or how we have like a mowing and shoveling line, like it's, maintenance might be,
So 130 could be reduced to 0.
It'd be $49,000 if you reduced them all, and said, okay, we've got $150,000 in the warrant article, and reuse that.
But that's the thing that we have to keep in mind, is just those regular annual maintenance, little things. You know, do we want to use that expendable trust fund for routine maintenance rather than repair?
Yeah,
right.
things like that. You don't want to.
So I don't know if
I'm just trying to,
it'd be advisable to.
I'm not saying we're,
but-
I'm not saying we're cutting it.
Well,
but
maybe
for-
we could put a general,
All town buildings.
all town buildings, general maintenance line in one place to say, here is our quick maintenance funds, otherwise go to the capital reserve. Or
I mean-
whatever we call
Yeah, we can talk about like
it, capital trust, sorry.
tightening or expanding, but again, for the 2024, what do we need to operate? That 5,000 can come off. The community center building maintenance at 20,000 could come off.
No, that needs to stay, cause I mean, that's our HVAC, that's our alarm monitoring.
So that's not maintenance. This one is the contracts. Okay, so leave that one there. And is 20,000 appropriate where we spent
We
23?
spent 23,000. Well, that was because we had vamped up our efforts with the rodent control.
Okay, so is this number still accurate, or is it gonna need to be higher?
We're hoping that we're making progress there, so I would like to say $20,000 is
right.
sufficient.
So we'll just talk, the recycling facility, the recycling center building maintenance, that 5 we can count on now. Cause that maintenance is just, again, this is,
Already spent it.
yeah. True. SAU building maintenance. We're gonna need more there, fire station
Spend
building.
it this year though,
Yep, 4875.
at the recycle center,
Yep. 4765, sorry, I was off.
on 130?
Yep.
Did we spend that 47?
This year.
Already.
What did we spend it on?
The waste oil furnace
Okay,
was a huge repair.
okay.
So they get that-
And, we ended up trying
True,
to
Tim, we'll leave that.
troubleshoot the well pump issue when.
Okay, came out of that. Okay.
So leave that line, leave that line.
Maybe that wouldn't be there, but.
134. What are we looking at there? I mean, we say 2, we've spent 1, and last year we spent 3, so one of those is right. Probably the 3.
Which line item?
134, the old town hall SAU building maintenance. We budgeted 2, we've already spent 1. Last year, we spent a little over 3.
What did we do for maintenance?
There's
on
some
it
plumbing
this year?
issues.
Plumbing issues?
Yeah. It's,
We have hard water. I mean, so the sediment's blocking up the piping, it's causing the toilets to continue to run. So there's that, and there's also pest control over there, so it gets invoiced to each individual building.
which is nice to have each building out to kind of see if we're
Right.
spending
Just
stuff.
pumped the
but-
septic too, didn't we?
Yes, yes,
Probably
we just
part of
pump.
Well, that's the thing on the
which
library
probably
too,
all
is
of
we're
the
just,
toilets running.
That's that whole 1,150 is right
That line's staying the way it
Yeah.
is.
yeah. I just didn't know if it needed to be increased to accompany the 3,000, just, we're trying to find every little thing here.
Okay, I didn't know we were going up, but that's perfect. Perfect, sure.
That may now have to be,
We're trying to be accurate.
Okay, right, well,
Well, if you wanna be accurate.
fire station building maintenance, we budgeted 65. We'll probably just leave that alone for just general building maintenance on that. The 17 was. Old fire building maintenance, we budgeted 25, we didn't really spend anything, so that's fine there. Highway building maintenance. There's another little one, right? We budgeted for 3, we've spent 2, last year we spent 5, what are we spending for, is it actual building maintenance, or is it?
is that the cost of the,
We installed the camera system over there, so it came out of this.
Okay.
Is that for the trailer too, that they're using? No, it wouldn't be on the maintenance.
Library building maintenance, I'm assuming that one's way wrong, unless the actual that we've spent, the 31, is that pumping it every line 138? The fact that the septic has failed there,
Probably
we're
some-
pumping it weekly, like there is no,
That's only been since after the first of the year.
but I'm saying that, so, I'm not looking at this line item,
Strictly the pumping.
right, so this, all I'm doing, we're gonna have to increase this line item, we're already $3,100
We're
in.
not increasing anything.
No, we're increasing. Need to be accurate. So, where the septic's coming out of, what, the building,
We haven't determined that yet. We're waiting on the quotes for the install, and then
Yeah.
we can present it to you and we can determine whether it's gonna come out of ARPA, if it's gonna come under building maintenance.
so maintaining it right now is pumping it is this.
Correct.
So that line item should really be gone up 3,000, probably to be 5,000.
Probably at least, how long is it gonna take us to get it done?
We had paperwork, came back, right, Alan had sent us the paperwork for the thing, and then our guy's potentially gonna install it, but
Correct.
that'll save us a lot for the install when we get to that point, and which will obviously save us on not pumping it every week, but.
Right. But
we
gotta
still have
get
to buy
that.
the plans.
We're waiting for the
Yes.
state.
No, the plans, yeah, the plans are, the design is done, it's awaiting
Right.
state approval, so.
Yeah.
That is somewhere in the invoice process.
SAU electric, that number seems really weird. We only spent $431 for the electric last year, is there something, probably should look at that,
Solar panels.
for the old town hall SAU? And then the SAU cost for maintaining that is coming out of the school budget,
Yes.
cause it says shared with the SAU. So if we can get, I mean, we've spent 1,000, we budgeted 3, so I guess
Electric
three
cost
is
share
gonna
with the
be,
SAU, So they reimburse us a portion of the electric.
so we pay for it up front and then they reimburse us, so that's why, okay,
But that doesn't really look,
the numbers
that's
look
gonna
goofy
be one of
there.
those situations where we receive the money back against the expense, because there's no way that we only spent $431 for the year.
Correct. Looks like line 140 has to come up, $3,500.
Yeah.
At least, we spent 5,000 last year, so 1,500 ain't gonna cut it. Old fire station electric, sure. Highway electric, sure. Library electric. Library electric is, that looks like there's some play there.
Yeah, they probably use the proposed number, 5,000.
So that's 2,350. That can be moved. Community center electric. Looks like we wanna, we got about 8,000 there to play with. 22 seems to be an accurate number. Again, that's solar dependent, but that's a number.
So would you say 7? Oh, you have 30,750.
It's, we were,
To the 22 that was proposed.
yeah,
Right,
change it down to the 22, so we're saving, we have $8,000 we can use off that line roughly, or 9,000.
Between the two lines, the library electric and community center electric. The difference between proposed and default.
Okay, I see what you, thank you. Yep, copy that. Piss tree smoke, that looks accurate. If it's close, I'm not, you know what I mean, from where we spent last year, where we're budgeted and where the default is, I'm like, that's enough between friends here.
Do we need to have electricity going on in the Grange? I know it's $300, but
We spent 200 last year. Are you saying doesn't need to be there?
does it need to be there? It's only open one day a week, and it's only open during, when it's light out.
Is there any like small space heaters or anything? There's no
No
water.
electricity, there's nothing, no, there's no water, there's nothing in there.
I bet that's just the no, but I bet $200 is just the connect fee.
There's a panel, but it's not activated. I was over there like, I don't know, probably,
I bet that's just a,
when were we
It
up?
might be, again, I'm just,
you know,
Yeah, the panel's not even live, so.
if you looked at your electric and looked at just the connect fee, that's probably just,
what that is because,
Minimum fee.
so, no, and and then if you turned it off and on, it would probably cost almost that much anyway.
right,
But
the only time I saw the lights on there was when they did a cleaning last year. Pretty much that one day, and that was it.
oh, I see what you're saying, so if we
It's
just,
not efficient lighting.
No, it's not anything, it's just,
you're just saying if it wasn't electric, if you held it there, the event would just be during the day with no lights.
right, it doesn't, because it's all windows, open the door, and there you go.
Be more authentic. Historically authentic.
There you go.
Oil lights,
I don't think my mom would appreciate it, but
oil lights,
whale oil.
oil.
I gotta bug out in 15 minutes, so I'm just trying to
on Saturday. she'd
plow
probably
through
like
this. 147, it looks like we have just shy of $1,000 that we might be able to play with there. We came in at 1,000, we're budgeted for 2, whatever. Recycling center,
it. Wait, where are you?
But we also had.
147.
Right, so we could use the proposed number 1450.
Well, we probably did add a little power with the fuel cube.
Can't imagine it's hundreds of dollars of
It would only
electricity.
power on as they're using it, so.
But
Minimal.
again, what do we need? I'm just seeing how much if we clean up the default budget, where that can fix other stuff.
1450.
Yep.
The new fire station heat looks like we need to bring that number up 5, 6, 5. What? Not to what we spent 14 grand on heat last year. Oh, but we got new,
It's difficult because we did not put our
and it wasn't as cold.
heating oil out to bid
Right.
between, or in 23, we did for this year, so we know what our rates are, but we
Yeah.
were literally paying what they were charging us.
We have a new
That's why
contract,
23 was high.
Yes,
and the
and we had.
boilers are
boilers.
fixed, and it wasn't as cold up to this point, which is our big-ish heating season, so we might
I think that's where the 1100 came.
11th, so even 8550 might not be that bad, because we're probably pretty shy on where we would be if you had a breakdown this time last year.
Keep the trucks, can we tell them to turn it down, 10 degrees?
Big number change, which community center heat?
That's us.
Yep, I'm just saying
That offsets whatever you're gonna increase
the fire department.
Yeah.
Well, if, we might not even have to increase the fire department, though, it's kind of, 14 was a bad year, high prices, inefficient boilers, and it was cold.
But do you think you can stick with 8550?
We might make it.
What do we need to do for 24? I'm just trying to make the bun.
Well, I'm just saying, you're already at 3,800.
Yeah.
Year to date, you're at 3,800.
Right.
True,
That's what,
but the
what
heating
has to come
season's, yeah, we don't know what the fall will be, so, I'm saying 8550 might be okay, maybe it needs to be 11.
Might wanna round it to 10.
Community center heat, there's some room to play there, possibly.
Well,
And
again, we're under contract, so.
recycling center heat, looks like there's some room there.
turn that heat off.
Yep.
Yeah, so they use the waste oil burner while they're there, and the other system kicks in when they're not.
Their internet, probably, that internet line, 159, probably needs to just be bumped up a little bit to a realistic value of another 1,000 or whatever. It's highway estimated 30% increase because they're Comcast. Dumpster fees, alright, so that's done there. Cemeteries, we budgeted 65 and we did 10 last year.
And it was only because we needed some limbs removed and,
What's the,
mowing costs.
Alright, so 65 seems to be a fine, just,
the tough year for mowing?
last year was, right?
Yeah.
Workers' comp, so now these ones here, again,
Those are based on our actual rate, so it's based on the claims that we had in the prior years, so those are set, we need to go with the,
Whatever the.
with the proposed budget, alright, so that's. Yeah, cause we expended the 42,292, copy that,
$10,000 more, 10,259.
for those two line items, thanks.
Oh, yeah, so we already paid for the year on that?
no, we haven't paid for it, they'll be due.
Sorry. It says
Yeah, we have,
We paid one,
the 42.
so those figures were actually based on the 38,447.
what's line 169?
Did we get the bill?
The
like,
insurances are paid
They're not,
half a year? Probably.
yes, wait, no.
We'll let you
No.
clean that up.
Yeah, I gotta look at that one, because that's, it almost mirrors what we,
Yeah, it's like exactly the number.
right,
So it's like, did we get the bill and before we did the budget and then pay it in January?
What do you mean? Are we talking about line 166?
Yeah.
166 and 167, yeah, because the 2020, year-to-date, okay, so we're looking at the default budget.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, we
42,000.
haven't expended anything in 2024.
Well, this says you did.
In 66, 166 we did.
42,292.
Our workers' compensation is gonna be paid off payroll.
Right. So that would have been paid off of last year's
Okay, so
payroll.
maybe she has paid it, maybe
yeah.
she has paid that one.
Could
42,292. So,
You
in
can
any
bill for
case, that,
Hmm?
what we need to carry forward is the 42,292, the 77,433,
Okay,
because those are the actual rates.
alright. Line 169?
169, nope, that was just, so that's just a placeholder, so those were our insurance claim reimbursements for the, engine two repairs and other miscellaneous insurance claims.
Alright. 173, police department salary. These, the police department, we need to look at the proposed and the differences between the defaults.
I, I think we have to go with the failed proposed budget for this.
I understand that. I'm trying to find the gap. So she's expecting to expend based on the gray column. We're budgeted on the default budget. We need to try to figure out how, this is one of the big ones. We're gonna figure out how to make,
$227,076.
Okay,
And we know that that's the bulk of the difference.
fire department. We're gonna, you have to clean that up, cause we don't have full,
But I think if you look at those three line items,
For which
201, 202, you've got overtime that's over, full-time salary that's under. Because
Yeah.
you're paying your,
Right. They kind of offset each other.
right, exactly.
they help us on the other side if they're part-time and we're not paying their
Right.
insurance and stuff like that, but per hour cost, if we can get those three cleaned up, so we at least know
Yep.
projected, like what we're doing, so we can adequately get those done. Uh, 203, what's service contracts, it shows 1,000 we paid last year, we were budgeting 250, but the default is $1, so we should probably assume we're closer to 1,000.
Why is default only $1? Maybe it was $1 and we spent money, so we put 250 in?
I don't know.
I think that includes the I am responding. No, that's not, that's under the software licensing, so, service contracts. There was something.
That just, we'll try to figure out what that is, there's $1,000 we either need to come up with, or that all's fine, postage, breathing apparatus. If we can find out why, do we need 5 or is 14, is that buying new stuff? And if we buy it, is it coming out of the expendable trust
Come out of
fund?
that expendable trust, yeah.
I don't know what that noise just was, but I'm glad it stopped.
Heat's been running an awful lot.
Shut that off. I'm too hot, let me open the door.
Put your coat on.
Put another sweater on.
So then we need to know if 5's accurate, or we don't really need anything there, because if we're replenishing breathing apparatuses, if it comes out of the breathing apparatus expendable trust fund. Anyway,
So check on that one.
I don't know, do they require
So
routine
that's
checks? Are there certain parts and pieces?
Historically, it was very expensive maintenance.
yeah, no, they are,
So
I
the
mean,
breathing apparatus fund is to replace the equipment as needed, so I think that
this is just the maintenance, this is the maintenance,
Right.
alright.
Certification, I think, arena.
Right, cause it's $100,000 that's in that SCBA capital reserve.
Right, goes in capital reserve.
So, training, we know what's gonna happen there, protective gear, 10,000 seems good, software licensing, uniforms and cleaning. So that depends on if we get full-time, part-time uniforms there.
Yeah, they can just wear the clothes over and over.
Supplies and equipment, we're budgeted for 9 at 218, we spent 1284, so maybe some margin there. I don't think we should budget for the 10 for fuel, because we have no idea what's going on in there. Vehicle maintenance, I wouldn't touch from 15, we spent 20 last year, but that's hit or miss. Same with equipment. Hydrant maintenance, we might be able to levy that up.
Yeah, it looks like that we've only spent $691 last year.
We were supposed to, so we have a contract with, Farrell, they're supposed to replace the one on Kennard. So that money was,
Encumbered,
it wasn't encumbered,
it wasn't.
no.
So they haven't done that yet. Okay.
How come we didn't encumber it? Just forgot.
Yep.
Radio maintenance, I know they're looking at a grant to try to replace the radios, I might have some more information on that too, but that might be a line item we can move it,
Working on some grants.
yeah. And I have another contact I gotta finish up that and try to get it to, Curry, or Peterson, whoever's doing the grants. Telephone, that seems like a slight mismatch there. We spent $700 for the fire building telephone, but we're budgeted $2,200. But then I guess if you look at the next line item down, internet, which is what I am responding and everything, so we should clean those line items up so we know where the money's going appropriately. Miscellaneous, hazmat, and forest fire, we got lucky last year that it rained like a lot, so I wouldn't take too much money off of that. What is this next one? Building inspector.
No change.
Yeah. The publications,
Yeah, so, the state adopted the
so we need a,
2020 code, so he was looking for the updated,
The new books, yeah, I remember that being a topic.
that was the only,
yeah, so we might have to do that. Office supplies, that seems like that should just kind of all be with everybody here in the building, but no, they have their own. Mileage.
Yeah, I wish that we did office supplies and lumped them all together.
You'd have accordance tables.
Emergency management, why do we only spend 2 for the salary though?
it's a stipend. Oh, because the position was vacant for,
Okay. So it'll be there next, so everything's there, that's a small budget, highway. You're gonna have to get us numbers for 259, where we're kinda down people, and if we're up people, if he hires people back in.
Or if people leave,
Yeah.
whether we hire somebody again, or do we leave the position open?
we're close to hiring the vacant position. So it will be a minimal impact for the term that it was vacant.
But then that kinda, that's those 3 there, the vegetative, roadside mowing, we're showing that at 20, that was another $10,000 one, I think we were saying we could save at.
Yep.
We took a lot of stuff off of here, right, so we were talking about this, all right, vegetative modem, so the hired equipment plowing,
Your proposed budget was $115,000 less than the default, so if we go with proposed, that can almost offset half the increase in the police department.
right, so yeah, we'll look at those numbers, what's gonna be actual, just so that we don't just throw the default and say, oh, it's in the highway, we'll put it to the police, it's like, make the numbers look what they need to be in. She's saying total, the highway, all the way down to
Our field
281,
proposed budget was 742,61
but the default bumped it back up.
compared to the 855,951, so.
But we just gotta make sure the numbers make sense
But I
coming
think
down.
the hired plowing, it's $140,000,
Right.
you think, so, I think you have to look at each line item that you've already spent.
Was that a stipend pay?
There's stipend pay in there.
Let's just make sure that let's just make sure that's clean and not something that it's like a 23 carryover. I know it says
That
final,
one I have flagged for,
yeah, something just looks funny there. Equipment parts, so if we take the default budget numbers and massage them to the failed proposed budget numbers, and then that would give us the potential extra money for move. So that'll move all the way.
Yeah, no,
Right now, the proposed versus default is $102,000 less, but then you already spent for hired equipment. 37%.
Right, but she's gonna look and make sure that number's accurate, that we didn't
Yeah.
double count something, cause it doesn't make sense, we would have spent already $140,000 for something we didn't plow. I don't even think our contracts are that heavily loaded up front. So,
last year, right, so last year it was 153.
something's goofy there, we just,
Huh? So if it was 153 last year,
we spent 140, I don't,
we spent 140, right.
But we only proposed 37.
Because we were assuming that it was heavy on the subcontracted side because we still have the same amount of lake roads that are subcontracted. Really, like, that didn't change.
We budgeted to,
You doing the line item like I was doing that? Yeah. Just about at my, I gotta go to Seabrook Station right now. I'm at my min drive time to make it for the rest of this. I'll look through two, and then if Ellen gather numbers.
Next week.
I get off Wednesday morning, and I'm completely on vacation. Wednesday morning, any time of the day, you let me know. My schedule for Monday, Tuesday are kind of like some working 13-hour shifts. So. Gotta sleep in there somewhere.
Thank you for what you just did, though.
But
Nice to listen to
Actually-
one person, than us all speaking at once.
Yeah.
And then just chime in on the things that you're saying, and using that as a, it helped me a lot as we walk through, the organization.
But actually, one of the days got swapped because I'm working extra tomorrow, so I will have Monday or Tuesday night. I might be able to do it, or anything Wednesday forward. So. I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna take this. Good luck on the rest of this, and like I said, I'm available. If you come up with a day, Monday or Tuesday, I have extra hours on there. Wednesday forward.
Have a good night. Make sure we don't melt. So where are we at?
Highway department. Well, I got a question back on the, spent a lot of money last year on signs on 269. Because they put, like on all the new roads, they put stop signs. I don't know how much those cost, but that's. Do you really think we're gonna spend that full amount, or is there another $1,000 we can squeeze out of there?
might be able to.
But we added a lot of stop signs last year,
And a
so.
lot of stop signs, and we had road name changes.
Yeah, so we had a lot of expenditures, so I think we could literally probably cut $1,000 off that line.
Okay.
Who's marking all this? Are you? Okay, so I mean, I'd say if we're gonna go back to 269, let's just cut $1,000 off that line.
Like 2,500?
Yeah, I mean, it's $1,000, so.
I think all general signage comes out of that line, it's not necessarily just the,
Barricades. Stop signs.
Well, we have a lot of that stuff.
We got one new sign that we had put up on Priest Road for,
Shouldn't cost $3,500.
cost that much?
Hope not.
Me too.
270. Drop that down.
Go for it, Tim, since you're making the marks, you start talking, we'll start agreeing or not agreeing,
And
since you're
then
gonna be doing all the
Highway-
changes.
Highway, no, that one's gonna be
Well,
changed. Highway
you're-
salt
you're
is
doing some.
$22,000 less than the default
Right, and
So cut that.
we could probably cut
further.
further because,
We still have a plethora of what we have from this year, don't we?
well,
I
I'm
don't
not sure
know
how
what
much
we
we
have for
have.
inventory, but we've only expended 35,000.
Right,
So, because we are buying in bulk at front, right? And then we store it all in there, and then it just sits, and then we take what we need, so.
And we replenish as we take.
oh, so we store it there? Is that how it works?
We stockpile it over at the Smoke Street pit.
Okay, oh, we're storing
Yeah,
it,
we don't buy it per storm, it's.
right, no, I know,
Okay,
but we
I figured
don't
you
buy,
did that.
but we don't buy
We won't buy any-
everything all at once.
We won't buy any more this year.
Yeah,
Or this season,
So,
fall.
we may need some in the fall.
But it would be more than what we've spent so far this year.
I would hope not.
That's what I was saying.
So like, can
Seasons
we,
shift.
can we make that $90,000, right? Is that, are we talking about a number there?
Yeah, I'm
And take,
thinking
you know,
maybe we could go down-
32,000?
I don't think I'd go lower than
75.
that. I don't think we should go lower than 90.
Again, I'm
You don't think so?
discussion.
No, because November and December could hit us pretty hard.
Yeah. But we're at, so.
I mean, that's when you get that cold rain that's gonna freeze. It might not be snow, but it's.
All right, I mean.
All right, so just for comparison, I just did this for somebody.
Hey, you can't leave.
We estimated 1,700 based on last year's consumption. We're only at like a third of that.
So that's what I'm saying. Can we make it 90?
I think safely, yes.
That's $32,000. I mean, could we make it 80? But remember, when we go for the year before, we wanna make sure that, I mean,
Well, I know, but, I mean,
that is one of the things that I think we cut off
hopefully we
here.
do a better job at explaining the budget.
But again, next year, we can only go the same 4%.
4%.
So whatever we're back here, so we don't have that. Even if we explain better next year, which we will, but you still, this is one of the problems that was brought up earlier.
Now, right, we're stuck
All
with,
right.
Right.
yeah, we're
So-
double
We're
stuck.
playing, right now, we're trying to figure out, this is if we do this, and this is where we come out with, and this is where we go here, and this is where we come out. Which avenue is gonna be the best way for us to proceed? Can we accomplish cutting? Or is it not gonna happen, and we have to go and, do the whole budgetary process? Not really. But we also have a director
Director.
who's more of a salt sand instead of a salt director. So that is also gonna help us bring that.
Even if we double what we have through the middle of February.
Feel like you had another budget meeting, right? Another day. So let's just say 85. Put it as 85. Yeah, you should have seen this discount.
Just like that.
They probably want to lower it more.
Well, it's actually 150 because the budget's 122. It's 122. 85K.
270, did we
But
drop that?
we're gonna spend it somewhere else. It's just not, we're throwing money around, but, good.
We leave 270 alone.
I'm trying.
70, we left alone at the 60,000 failed proposal.
Yeah, we left it at 60, not 65, right? So we got a little five there. Sorry, go on, so Tim's back here, back on number 72?
That's in your employee.
That's gone.
So.
see what happens. 274.
Should we add money?
Yep.
Yeah, so at the default, or? I know, right, did you wanna go with proposed? Or?
You can, but I think it's unrealistic.
Keep it at the 60.
Yeah.
Yep. Give it 60.
Okay.
Compromise, 55.
Well, here's the, so I don't think we can do anything with telephone. That's pretty much the way it is. Sorry, I mean, you're calling the shots, but I keep jumping in on you, so I apologize. The 277, engineering and consulting.
Probably leave it at the 10 we have it at.
We can leave it, because guess what? We don't have any money to do anything anyway, so
Right.
simple plan on there, 10.
We are fortunate
Yeah,
enough to
The
have
director
some,
can
Well, you
do a
can,
lot of
but,
the engineering.
right, but obviously, some of our projects without the funding in there to make it happen is not gonna work.
so in the past, we had contracted with CMA for up to a certain amount. We don't have an active contract with them, so it'll be an as-needed project basis.
Right, so I mean, that could be, and the fact that we actually have a new potential, Nottingham resident, who hasn't came for us yet, who does this kind of work,
And he's already met with the highway director.
and he's already met with the highway director, so that could actually be a more savings, so we could probably cut another $2,000 off that, or $3,000 off that number. I'm just saying, everything's gonna count, so. You guys feel comfortable making that a little shorter? And maybe putting that engineering consulting number down to,
Well, a
Seven.
double-edged sword, but
it is, I mean, again,
Well,
it's,
there's no money to pay for anything anyway.
I know, so I mean, get right.
Exactly, so,
I'm just worried about next year's
well,
default.
I mean, we're still
I
gonna come
know.
up to the, we gotta, well,
I get it.
we're not gonna
I
go
get it.
less than the, whatever number.
So if we put that to 7,000 instead? So it's $13,000 right there.
We're just trying to figure out where we're gonna come out to.
So I don't know where we end up now.
I'm at, we
What
leave
na-
the
what did we put
remaining
that down
three
to?
items.
There's nothing in the remaining three
730,
items.
761.
What do we put,
730, 761.
730,
So it's $10,000 less than what we had proposed initially.
But that's good, because we're,
That's the total number,
Yes.
line 281.
Correct.
that's good.
All relative.
It's all relative. So what do you want to do with 282?
So the default was 200, proposed 100,
Right, but we put that was a warrant article that failed,
correct?
so,
All we have to work with is the amount that was encumbered that's specific to,
143, 323,
Which was?
143, 323,
That's from the warrant article the year before that we did not expend.
correct.
Well, that we
So-
didn't finish spending.
right. Yeah, so how does that
And then we
work?
have 200 on top of it now.
Right. But, do we not do any of those roads because they failed? And just do what we encumbered? And therefore we save the 200,000 to use wherever? Because and I'm not sure how the no means no when it comes to that, article.
Because this is the budget line, it's in there.
Right, I understand that, that's a budget line, but no means no, does that mean we don't touch those roads that were listed? And
Oh,
we
you
do-
mean for the expenditure, like those extra, we said we were gonna
yeah,
pave,
because we tried, I
Right.
mean,
up this part paved, up this part paved,
Right.
the inlets of the roads.
Those inlets, do we not do those at all, because no means no?
Oh, I'd say that's a luxury cost that
Right.
doesn't get expended.
Right.
This money here gets spent on needs.
Yeah,
Like, the
Right,
road
so-
needs to be functional, passable for highway and fire, so this is why we need to spend the X amount of money on it. And not because, well, it'd make life easier. That's not the,
But where,
But the 143,
the 143 was designed for paving and designed for stuff that we were supposed to do.
Yeah, the
Like
140,
recoating the road that we paved that needed to be seal coated that we didn't do. Or they didn't get
the
to.
143, but we can,
The 143 has to be spent on,
on whatever that.
or whatever it was last year that we didn't finish the project, that was part of the contract and cost of that.
That's
So we
encumbered.
really, we're really only talking about,
We have 200,000 there
we have 200,000 there.
we're gonna spend
That-
143.
that we don't necessarily have to spend on roads at all.
Right, we could literally cut that back to the 100, take $100,000 off there and just not do anything.
Or, yeah, we can cut it to zero.
I wouldn't, I wouldn't cut it to zero,
I mean, we
because then.
could,
You could, and because you still have, you've got 143.
right.
And that's not showing.
We could use that 200,000 wherever in the budget. You know, do no paving per se this year, other than a
That's,
143
that
already encumbered.
just that contracted road maintenance projects is not just paving. That's adding the cost for gravel, that's adding cost for, I mean, that's part of maintaining roads.
Okay,
So,
so
I mean, you have to have something left to maintain something of the roads, I mean,
is that,
to the bare minimum of what we need to make them passable.
I thought there was a gravel line or something, or,
There is,
yeah.
they've already spent.
That's no longer any.
this would be like, you know, if they had to reconstruct a portion of a road, it's the,
Spring washout, Mother's Day
Right,
flood.
Right, but it was sort of, this is tied to the other warrant article that failed.
Right, we took 100,000 out of this and threw it into that warrant article.
Right, exactly.
So you could technically say that warrant article that we only have to really pay 100,000, so again, we could still go back to the 100.
We can go back to the 100 and just use that.
Well,
as
that's
the
what I
number,
was proposing, yeah.
Or, but we don't have to, you
So
know,
it'd be a
this is
total
our
of
budget.
There'd be a total of 243, 323 to use
It's,
this year.
right, it's our budget, we can
143 that you got from.
encumbered.
Right, well, sure, that's, again, I'm just trying to, I'm advocating not going to zero.
I agree, we only spent
Yeah,
$57,000 last year.
I don't wanna be up,
But it didn't do with the.
I don't wanna be above that 100.
Again, that's, I'm good with that too, make it 100, there we go. Steve, got a question on it? There you go. We're at 100. So we found 100 grand there. Please do not complain about your road being bumpy, please do not complain about that. Hey, get your shovel out.
Yeah.
Snowing out
And
there.
there's a little bit sarcasm, but, are you serious?
All right, line 284.
Okay, maybe get out of here for, no, we won't.
We already talked about this.
So salaries, right, can't really,
But that's based on 4, and we wanna drop it to 3? We could cut it a little bit if we did that.
does not backfill the open position.
can we survive without backfilling that position?
We did most of the summer last year. We didn't bring on 4 until later in the year.
It wasn't
It's
the
not
best
ideal.
scenario.
It's not the best scenario. It
One
makes it,
person calls out, they can't run anything.
and we did run into a
Yeah.
difficult situation where we had employees that were not eligible to take all of their vacation time before it was lost. So, just because you are running short-staffed at that point, but
Well, maybe we should change that policy. Not today, obviously. If it's something that we have to do.
But we also have $30,000 worth of fine for the disposal fees. Our sales budget was 240, last year was 251, so we're already at 30,000 now, and we have eight summer months. So whatever, no matter if we mark that down there, we still gotta go up there. That's where,
Just if we can deal with.
well, we're presently gonna say staff that. Like,
Probably do some staff baseball guys there.
It would be nice if somebody would say, I'd like to only work 4 hours on between.
I think we could save.
Want to be creative, but then employees that's working there doesn't go along with the creativeness that we're saying, because it's not worth my time to work 4 hours and lose a whole employee, then what the hell's the purpose? I'm just explaining, I'm playing devil's, I mean, on the, I don't think that, I mean, that line, the dump is yeah, whatever.
If we can't,
It's a sieve, man, it's just a money costing machine for the town, and it's gonna cost us more, and whatever. So, it is an absolute money dump, and it costs more money every day than anybody else. Sorry, I probably won't be speaking against the cost structure, so take it over.
So.
get rid of it.
Household hazardous waste did not take place, it's happening in April. So we will have that expense for this year.
$1800? Woo, perfect.
Care of all the required maintenance for that. Zero it, but.
So what, take $1,500 off it?
$2,000?
They are required to. So 290, yeah. If-
Well, I mean, that's just, well, how much is it a month?
Most of the guys already certified.
Drop them down to $100 or whatever.
So you're talking about 294, 295.
But, yeah.
Maintenance.
Is there a reason why, all right, so,
What's the equipment
Yeah. 292.
repairs? So what's the difference between that equipment repair and the other
Construction.
maintenance? One's maintenance, one's repair.
Good question.
Well, something happened to the building probably. And the equipment is,
Equipment repairs such as the scale and the
equipment.
furnace, the other
Yeah,
one, the
but
safety
they run
equipment.
into the door, which they've done before.
Yeah,
You can, but I think we got,
do we have like building maintenance.
building
right?
maintenance already, so we can get
I
rid of
almost
that.
think that this might be like the fact that we might have to replace the ramp, or it's not necessarily,
Right.
or like the step up to be able to throw.
Right, but can we
Cans in the
combine some of
trailer.
that stuff?
We can use that under the
Yeah.
building maintenance fund then.
Well, we could, we're gonna expend that out real quick too, aren't we, this year, it looks like, but at least it's there.
There's no doubt.
Oh, good thing that passed. Alright, so where are we on? Are we on,
297, 6, somewhere around there,
did we get to 96?
296.
Is what it is.
Yeah, you're a quarter way there.
Your fuel, I mean, your diesel, that is for the furnace when they're not using the waste oil furnace, and the propane to run the fork truck, so. $4,000 expended, 2,000 budgeted.
How do we not spend anything so far this year, though? Or has it just not been computed?
Just haven't filled the tank, maybe.
Alright,
And then when you get down to 299, obviously we budgeted 3,000, increased it to 6,000, that failed. We spent 11,000, so my understanding is we used to buy bags once a quarter. So what they were doing is the recyclables, when you go in the room, when you've got all your sorted stuff, they were recycling the bag. Now we're disposing the bag. We're putting a clean bag up every time that bag gets filled and removed.
are people complaining because it smelled?
It all falls all over the place. Because when they bale it, it's not self-contained, and so it all just, it falls out and makes a mess.
So we are buying many, many more bags than we ever have. They come with an expense because they are clear.
So we're gonna expend over $3,000 on that.
We
Then
expend-
I mean, I know we're using super heavy-duty big bags. Can we use, if we're compressing them and for the baler, can we use cheaper bags?
No, because when you go to recycle them, they have to be recyclable material. That won't be the same as the bag, as the recycle, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
The right
If not, they reject the,
Well, yeah, because a lot of times they won't recycle the bag anyway.
right.
I want my $50.
It's a high price to recycle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really doing us well. So, sorry for the sarcasm, but it is what it is. So what do we do with that line? Do we add 3,000 to it? I mean, we leave it alone, but we know we're gonna go over
We
it.
stay with the default budget, I mean, we were already over.
We're
it.
going over
We
it.
gotta go to at least the
You can tell them to
proposed,
stop using
right?
bags. They could just go back to how they were doing it before. It's
Well,
recycled.
but I mean, if the bales are just falling apart, how is that even?
Because you just, think about what you're doing.
Yeah, well, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I understand the bales are falling apart,
Yeah.
but how are they dealing with that?
Is there not a bag in the baler that you,
No, like a
bigger
huge bag.
bag?
Yeah, I mean, how were they dealing with it before, if they were just like, just falling, recycled? You know, I could picture the jugs falling out all over the place.
Yeah, probably. You wanna volunteer a weekend down there to see what happens?
I can ask about some alternatives to wrapping the bale or something.
right,
And the conversation right now on this is trying to keep us at the number.
Right.
We ain't even helping it.
Right.
I mean, so this is just saying, hey, let's toss some ideas around, well, to hopefully make this work, and so we don't go way over it, as we did last year.
Oh, you see these little bottles falling all over the
Yeah,
place.
$9,000 almost over. Okay, so
what are we doing in the line?
what are we doing on the line?
Do you want to go up to 9, halfway between, but
We have to add, again, I think we're, if
We
we,
should be at least at the 6.
at least at the 6.
Leave it at the 6,
Let's go to the 6.
and we'll see if we can find another method of baling.
So where do we end up on that budget line item?
360, $360,350.
It would save 20,000.
Wow.
Wait, what number?
Default budget.
$360,350.
Yeah, the default budget's 338,000. So we didn't save anything.
But we don't
No,
have-
because we have the additional hauling costs
Sorry.
of the new contract.
This is going well.
Well, we've done some good strides, so again.
301,
Sorry, I can't believe it's 10 o'clock still.
I don't think we can change anything on
No, I don't think we changed anything there.
animal control.
Right.
I did,
So where's that 5,000 was?
Well, because we gave her a raise.
Patrol officer, so the different rates, okay.
Yeah, we got her, I mean, we paid her
Minimum wage.
what she's worth. I mean, probably worth even, not even what I'm
that's
saying.
what she's worth.
I mean, just to make it,
And then we already covered 306.
general assistance was
314.
going to be based on the proposed at the 6706. Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
And then same thing with social services.
Social services is 0. Approved.
long line items.
Rec department,
As Courtney said, I don't think there's anything we can do with that.
so rec department, I have to adjust the salary because, we had tried to move Bridget in there in the proposed, but then there was, I have to make sure that the salary's reflective of current rate for Courtney. She have zeroed the salary line. So I'm just trying to see. The, line 339, which was the Parkfield Beach maintenance and mowing, I have 24,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
24,000 for,
That's
Line 339,
that's what we're dropping it to.
yes, I'm pretty sure that's what she said.
Yeah, that's what she said, was 24,000.
So what you said, Courtney?
Yeah. Sorry, Courtney, I didn't know
She
you
spent
said-
last year. I'm gonna get my weed, I'm gonna get my weed whacker out and I'll be over there in May and June.
Yep.
Yeah, working on that in 2 weeks. Got my son's little John Deere tractor, I'm gonna have him drive around. Power wheel, 6-volt battery. Take him 14 days.
So rec
We got the time.
programs at default for 11. Let's see, rec equipment 346 for 700. Everything else I think was the same.
So for that, with the, going to the default, would the assistant rec director's salary go back to the rec revolving then?
Half of it will.
Half of it would,
Yeah, so I think we have to go back to the,
82.5. Sorry, I'm making highlights.
so the salary needs to be at 89,150 to be reflective of current and half. And I am gonna double check that because I'm glazed over right now, so I'll double check that in the morning.
Okay. Anything else in rec?
No, I think we got everything else.
And then library, we reviewed with Ms. Phillips. Any questions there?
So as, we go back to 349, rec telephones. The budget was for 1920, the default's 300. part of that 1920 was for the fact of,
We added cell phones, department cell phones. So
Did we already
have to
buy
go
'em?
to 1920.
Yeah, we have.
So pay for them,
Yeah, we pay for them.
service.
That's why it was increased to 1920.
so we gotta put that number back in there to, because we already bought them there.
And that's one of the ones that we have to check because it's showing zero expenditure, so.
Well, right, and that's why it's not accurate.
I'll send an email, Ellen, but I don't have that, I don't have phone information. Correct some of the other lines
Okay.
tomorrow.
Are we doing we're not doing anything with the library, right?
I'd like to avoid it at all costs right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's what?
I'd like to avoid doing anything, changing anything there.
So default, we're talking about default, correct? Numbers or?
Yeah, default
Because
closed.
we're, right, because she said that we're not gonna be able to get
I mean, that's,
a library.
The library?
if we say a default,
No, we can't say default.
No, because it's not reflective of,
We had to stay with the proposed.
Yeah,
I know.
wait a minute,
everything that she did there last year would be completely pointless.
right?
but part of this, the budget was her hiring a new full-time.
Librarian, right.
And we're not doing that.
No, but she's still spending, what she had said, was she's still spending the salary that she's got budgeted because they gave everybody increases, pay increases. They can't even afford to pay for a full-time I mean,
Oh, I didn't get that.
No,
I didn't interpret it that
I
way.
think I interpreted that at,
Okay, so her, I'm
That
sorry,
she's not going to be able to,
She provided an email to me, the 2024 request was a 190,868.25. 2024 need, staying with the existing staff and reduced hours, is 168,023. This number is a safe figure that doesn't account for things like the library being closed to the public for 1 week in August, time off, illness, holiday closures, etc. But she was told to use this figure for planning purposes.
so it's
The
still,
168,023 covers existing
21
staff,
over the
reduced
budget.
hours.
So that's just salaries.
Correct. So that would just be line item,
351.
so even at that rate, she didn't get a full librarian,
correct.
full-time librarian.
Right.
But.
Yeah, 'cause-
So do we go with the 168, whatever it is?
well, you gotta still add the library, isn't that
that's
operations?
next, well, yeah,
Right,
he's
that's
still focused on the 351 though, so we keep it at the 168 that she's recommending,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, she could run on.
351 is 168, not 147.
Correct.
Right,
But
the
not
default was
190.
147. So she can live on 168.
168,023 covers the staff with the reduced hours.
168 is 20,000 higher than the 147.
Yes.
Correct.
Because it's reflective of increases that were granted.
Exactly.
Okay,
So again, that number is still 20,000 higher, so.
correct, that's what I said, yeah,
That's what I'm just,
okay.
so when we're at the default budget here, we're really not looking at 194.
Now we're looking at 217.
There you go, that's what I want. So, add that up.
Conservation Commission,
In such a high budget.
could, if you went with the proposed, you're saving
We could probably go with the
235.
proposed.
You're saving 235.
Yeah, just go with the proposed.
Sure.
I don't think there's anything more. I think we're
No,
done.
Debt service you can't touch.
Right.
Right.
Well, it's lower anyway, so. Well, that was the fault, I'm sorry. So Alan, do you want to set up another meeting for next week? And you can kind of update it with all of the payroll numbers that we want to include, and then with the changes we just made, and then we can go from there.
Absolutely.
Don't look at my bottom line number, because I didn't make, I just
Oh,
highlighted all the
okay.
changes. No,
So I was hoping you were
not
doing
much different.
Yeah, and I need to, consult with you tomorrow. We'll compare spreadsheets.
Yeah. So
You're
when,
just adding a new column?
I did, yeah,
Okay, good, because that way we can have
Easier.
the
comparatively.
original, the default, and where are we?
so Wednesday, Thursday next week, either day work, that works for,
I can only do Wednesday, I can't do Thursday. Can't do Tuesday, Thursday.
On Wednesday, what I'll do is I'll just step out of this meeting for a couple minutes, go see, well, we can't have this this room is booked on Wednesday for a planning board.
Conference room two.
Well, right, so,
Matt said he couldn't make Wednesday, right?
no, you can make Wednesday.
He can
he
make
starts
Wednesday?
vacation Wednesday.
Oh, he starts vacation Wednesday, okay.
He can't make Monday or Tuesday.
Welcome to vacation.
Yeah, I know, where would it start? Yeah, I'll just have to step back just quickly, you know, cause there's things on planning, so. I feel bad, cause Ed's gonna have a,
You can do Thursday, I mean,
no, Wednesdays work, I mean, hey, you know what, this,
I don't need to be here. You guys are perfectly capable.
You're not getting out of it, Steve. Nice try, buddy.
I'm just saying,
I'm just
you
saying.
can't always find a day that pleases everybody.
Thursday, you can't do Wednesday.
You can't do Thursday.
Next week, I'm good.
That's
So
why
we're
he's-
going on Wednesday.
That's why he's proposing Thursday.
We are on for Wednesday.
All right, I'm good for Wednesday.
Same
We're all
time,
good
different
for
place.
Wednesday. Yeah, just down the hall.
Same time, different place. Yeah.
Okay.
So I make a motion to close our work session if we need that.
Yes,
We do. Cause
All
we
meeting.
opened.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second.
Aye, John Decker.
Aye, Steve Welch.
Hi, John Warren.
Hi, Tim DeBrio.
Thank you.
Good night, Nottingham.
If you're still tuned in, thank you very much.